But now it's time to get into our second match of the day. It will be Canada facing off against the Aussies, Australia taking the stage. Very excited for both of these teams, and I guess we can start with Australia here, because we lived that experience in Sydney. That was mind-blowing. That was one of the best times I've ever had working an event there. The energy and the Australian team feeding off of that. Can they do that here, James?
Yeah, the thing is, you know, they did have that home crowd support, but they also know how to play when they're not at home, when they are, you know, on the road, because they spent 2 seasons in Chinese Taipei in the OPC competing for so long that they have a lot of LAN experience. They have the most experience on patch 1.16 with the new Mercy and with the new Diva.
Yeah, and then on the other side for Canada, James, I want to get your thoughts here yet again. Let's dive into this, because this is a Canadian roster in Poland that their pure objective, the only thing that they had to do was avoid South Korea in order for them to get to BlizzCon. They did that. Now they're here. Can you see Canada rise to the occasion here now that the competition is stacked like this?
It looked like Canada did finally find their comfort zone, especially when they faced off against Russia, when they were in that pressure situation where you can't lose this tiebreaker or you're facing off against South Korea. And so I can't wait to see what they actually have in store for us. What is Mangachu going to do?
That's right, the Canadian roster. Hex, real quick, some thoughts on these on the Canadian team?
I mentioned XQC being the MVP, and that was kind of in jest because of the graphic that came up, but talking to them, and this is going to surprise people because the word I'm about to use, the maturity that he came across with and how he's been playing for this team is amazing.
Well, you're going to need it going into this matchup. Here they come. Our friends from the north. We share a territory together here, you know. So yeah, by extension, you cheer on the Canadians. You got a lot of Canadians in the house as well. Great roster here. Lots of talented players. I mean, everyone here at this point in the Overwatch World Cup deserves to be here. And there you see Surefour with his glorious gray hair. I mean, I guess that's a word we can use to describe gray hair. My gray hair will not look nearly as glorious as Surefour's, apparently.
Well, you just keep your head shaved at that point, right? That's what you're planning for.
I've given up. I've shaved my hair. Actually, Surefour told me that. He was like, "You're just jealous." And then I took off my hat, and I was like, "Indeed I am." Indeed I am. So, yeah, but there you saw the roster there as they made their way to the stage. But now let's go ahead and shift gears to the Aussies, our friends down under. James, you mentioned about this experience that they have been able to accrue having competed at APAC. This is like one of the only teams that has had an opportunity to play in a tournament environment in this current patch. So they're coming in with a little bit of an advantage here.
Yeah, patch 1.16, it's only been played in Apex Challenger and APAC so far. APAC having taken place just last week. I got to see these guys just compete it out in the group stages and in the playoffs. And so we're gonna see how much that experience pays off for them, because they have played with the new Mercy, they have played with the new Diva. Now, they are bringing in Kiki and Atar, but still bringing back in that roster from the core blank, readjusting them into that, I think it should be easy for them.
They had the hometown behind them. They had the support of their friends and family, but it seems like they're getting that love here as well as they make their way out to the stage. There you have Team Australia. Hexagrams, your thoughts on this team?
I really hope that we get an Aussie, oi, 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 somewhere going in the stadium. That'd be nice, but I think that the core of this
Are there Australians here? Are there Australians
I see the yellow jerseys. I see at least 3 or 4 yellow and green jerseys.
Well, let's introduce you to the roster here. Atar, QT, Gumba, Kiki, Trill, and I Eat You Up. And that is what he's looking to do here, because he was shredding in Sydney.
They run a small dive sometimes, and watch Trill and I Eat You Up work together on the Tracer and the Winston. They work so well as a team. They've been running through APAC, and when those two are on fire, they can beat anyone in the world.
It's very, very true. But James, I mean, the Canadian team, we should not be sleeping on them at all, because while many will doubt someone like Mangachu, for example, we saw him be one of the difference makers in Poland.
Yeah, it's 2 different rosters that we're actually seeing facing off, right? In Canada, you have that star-studded roster. Everyone just absolute specialists in their roles. but you've also got in the Australian team, a team that's been tested, that's been put through just the battles of fire, right? Where they've competed for almost 8 months in Chinese Taipei. They just got to compete in APAC, where they got experience scrimming with teams like GC Busan, Runaway. I hope you guys are familiar with those names, because GC Busan is the latest champion from Apex.
Yeah, that's right. And Hex, your thoughts now. What are the keys to victory here for both teams, really? Like, what do both teams need to do to win?
For both teams, I think Australia, as I mentioned, I think they're really going to have to rely on their Tracer gameplay. I think he is head and shoulders the most mechanically gifted player on this team. I eat you up. He lives up to his name a lot of times, and what he does so well is when a fight is lost for them, even when the Mercy's resurrecting, it's like, no problem, guys. I'll just get 3 eliminations, and we're back right into it right there. And I think Canada is going to have to work on team chemistry. There's no doubt across the board that these guys are all god-tier players, mechanically gifted and skillful, but they haven't been able to work all that well together. Look, there's a lot of stuff going on in Overwatch that it's hard to get all these people together who are spread out against the vast wilderness of Canada to be able to practice together. So if their coordination can step up, we all know what they can do as individual players.
And what about for you, James? The keys on each side. What does Australia need to do to get this win? What does Canada need to do?
Australia, they got to see a lot of different compositions coming out during APAC, particularly here on 1.16. They can definitely use that kind of experience to try and best our Canadian neighbors to the north, right? Especially on maps like Junkertown. I don't know how much experience that they might have. So for Canada, I want them to go back to, just more comfort picks here. They do have that lenience with Mangachu possibly going on to projectile role to really try and throw the wrench into the works. It's something that they haven't seen quite yet on this side of Australia.
Yeah, when we were doing contenders, and I had a chance to see Mangachu on Renegades play, and Renegades was kind of a bit of a storyline there in that they were just struggling. But there's a different kind of Mangachu here, I feel. He feels a bit more jovial, feels a bit more energetic, and I certainly wouldn't have gotten that vibe from him if I had seen him during contenders. Do you think that in itself is going to play a factor, that the Canadian roster here, they seem to be getting along very, very well?
It goes back to my point talking about XQC, where he understands how he's going to have to play and how that's different than he's had to play previously. And a lot of people know him as a personality, as someone who would maybe, this is how he plays and maybe be stubborn about it. But as I mentioned, the maturity he showed of like, this is what my team needs from me, this is how I'm going to play, this is how we win.
All right, guys. Well, it's time to get into the matchup. It'll be Canada, facing off against Australia. Let's send it over to your casters.
Thank you very much, Golden Boy. Hello, everybody. Mitch Leslie here with Matt Morello. It's UberX taking you on an affordably priced ride from down under to up over. One of the most intriguing matchups so far in these quarterfinals. What a mix between these two teams.
Yeah, we saw Canada when we were in Poland, and I think one thing you can talk about this Canadian roster coming into this event is, Mangachu, where you saw him at his best in Poland on the far, right? You can run triple DPS now. I think a lot of the pressure there would fall on XQC as the solo tank in the lineup getting into the first map. I think we can expect to see that out of this Canadian roster, maybe not in this first point, but deeper into the game.
Yeah, they've talked to us about how they still prefer to play that triple tank sort of setup here. Australia, conversely, it's important to mention that, yes, they've been in China, they've been playing on this patch, and they had to go up against a lot of Farah play. And speaking to RQT and the rest of the Australian roster, they sort of said, well, we kind of don't like playing against Farah, or at least we didn't. But we had to learn to love it. We had to learn to deal with it here. And we know exactly what Mangachu can do on that pick. But so far, he's going to be opening up on the DV here as Australia in the green, Canada primarily in the white, coming out here in this first stage of Oasis.
Yeah, something you notice out of the Australian lineup is you're not going to see the Winston. You're going to see Troll running the Roadhog. Obviously, he can just stay alive for so long. He just creates so much space just by being such a large HP target and then able to stay alive for so long. So going to be able to walk in with that Roadhog and then hope the Tracer and the Genji can put down a lot of damage.
The Australian tanks are getting taken a little bit low at this stage, but the point's now unlocked, so eventually either the Aussies or the Canadians are going to have to make the move. It's poke damage, the name of the game right now, but Shawfall's got that early D-suit on Kiki. He's been knocked on out of that one now. ATAR with a bit of room to work on the point. Australia is playing that fairly slow, ponderous style. They haven't lost anyone yet, but they're getting a bit low. It doesn't matter. Now the kills are coming through. Mangachu with an early D-suit. Rolf hastily getting the res on XQC.
You're going to try and bring XQC back into the fight. Keep this going. For Canada, it's going to be a res that comes out from RQT onto Trill. And when you revive that Roadhog, he has so much HP, you can stay alive for so much longer, but it's going to be Canada coming out on top in the first fight. There's a pulse bomb from Agilities. You get XQC back in on the Winston. That's a big res.
interesting start from both of these two teams. Very much getting the measure of one another at the start here, but that's a huge pick-off. Each up gets taken down by agilities before the rest of Australia can coalesce and prepare to push back on towards his points.
And as soon as Canada gets the point, they switch over to that triple DPS comp. So you have Surefour now on the 76. Mangachu goes back, switches to the far. So he's going to be able to put down a ton of damage through these choke points. And then you have agilities on the Tracer, able to get down, finish off a lot of these players.
Again, each up going low as he pushes on towards the point. The Farah's got to be tough for Australia to deal with. They lack a Soldier 76 right now, but it's going to be the Dragon Blade coming in. Atar wasn't knocked away. First kill comes through. It's Joe Meister to fall by his hand, and Mangachu trying to get out of dodge, but he's caught by the keen edge of the blade. It's traded out though. Atar did fall, and Canada are in numbers here, working back on towards the point. Australia don't have control just yet.
Yeah, and Rolf uses his Valkyrie, so he brings both of those players back into the fight. So you get Mangachu back up, Joe Meister as well, as Joe Meister gets closer to his sound barrier. It'll be the whole hog that comes out from Trill. RQT gets taken out of the sky there by Surefour. This is an excellent start from Canada.
You can see just what this Soldier 76 offers you here. Surefour was able to gun down RQT despite being in that Valkyrie form. RQT in midair wasn't able to do much to try and avoid the hit scan pressure coming in. He fell. Australia needed him around a lot longer in that fight.
See the replay here from Mangachu. Just going on top, putting a ton of damage down, and we mentioned it, no hit scan on the side of Australia. It's very difficult to get Mangachu out of the sky.
And they've not switched that yet, which I find quite curious here. They're dealing with a Mercy and a Pharah, right? There's a lot of things that need to be trying to burst down, at least from longer range. They're going to stay with the Genji despite not having a Dragon Blade available, but there's a Pulse Bomb there. XQC gets picked off early. Australia managed to get on towards him with the Rodok hook, but it's going to be rezzed out pretty much instantly. In the meantime, though, the response is there. Mangachu pretty much staying out of the fight for the most part here, and it looks like Australia have finally found the opening they're looking for. Mangachu's going to have to back out.
Yeah, I mean, Canada's going to back out here, right? They have some ultimates to work with in the next fight. They'll have the Rocket Barrage. You're going to have Sound Barrier. You're going to get very close. You're going to get Attack Visor in this next fight as well. So you have some good ultimates from the Canadian roster to take this point back, take the first point. For Australia, you don't really have anything on the board here. It's going to be very difficult. Maybe you get trans here from Gunba. That's about it.
They need early picks, Australia, if they really want to give themselves the advantage in this fight. That's what they're looking for. They get XQC of these res. That at least is the resurrect drawn out of the fight. Agility doesn't connect with his pulse bomb, but now the pressure comes back in from Canada. The Attack Visor, they're starting to go through those ultimates, and they're finding their marks. Kiki's only able to get the one self-destruct killer. Mangachu with a lot of space can gun down on towards IE drop, and there's no chance for Australia to really get back to this point in time. It'd be desperate small if they were going to do it, but no. Canada, it's a strong showing and a statement in this first round on Oasis.
And Australia doesn't even get a chance to use their trance there towards the end. And you saw Agilities who were on board with him. He throws the Pulse Bomb in that room. He gets a few players weak, doesn't get a kill, but XQC gets res, jumps right into it. Surefour with the Attack Visor. You had all those players grouped up, trying to get out of that space. Not able to do it. But Canada winning that first point. We'll see how Australia changes their comp up. Really surprised they didn't bring out something like a 76 or McCree to deal with the Pharah Mercy combo.
Such is the landscape of competitive Overwatch right now that an early pick doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. It depends on where the pick actually originates from, because quite often the teams that lose a player can bring the Mercy back in, get that quicker resurrect. What you want to try and do is hope that an enemy player overextends to such a degree that their corpse, where they would be res from, is behind enemy lines, and it's too dangerous for Mercy to get in there and get them back up to full strength.
Yeah, it's not as important as the first kill, but as where the first kill happens. If it happens kind of like on your side of the line and the Mercy can bring that player back, great. It's when somebody overextends a little bit too far, they dive, it makes it really risky for your Mercy to go in. The other team camps the body, takes out the Mercy as they come through, because that's basically giving 2 kills away right there, and then you have no chance of coming back in these fights.
Okay, so it's going to be double DPS here for Canada. They're going to have the Diva from Mangachu at least to open up again, perhaps a switch later on. But so far, again, it's a slow start. Australia don't want to give up too many of these targets. Joe Meister getting chunked down fairly low, forced to back away. And it looks as if Trill saw an opening to come forward, but he gets very little for it. It's going to be XQC and Surefour respond, and that's an excellent disengage from Canada to receive that pressure from Australia and give it back twofold.
That is such a clean fight for Canada. You saw Surefour just launch a Helix Rocket in. XQC is actually jumping on Atar RQT there as well, probably playing for that res right away. Gets hit with a Helix Rocket, taken out. It's XQC jumping up top. I think one of the better Winstons we have here competing, and I know everybody sees his streams online, watches him play consistently. I think you meet him in person, it's a much different player. Definitely team-oriented, has a great mind for the game.
Absolutely. You can see he's going to be doing a lot of disengaging in this particular patch. It's a jungle out there for Winston, and not in the way that he would otherwise like. Very easy to get burst down. Trill finds the first pick, but it's going to be rezzed out invariably here. He finds a second though. Joe Meister down. He's also rezzed up. So Canada was still with 6 men after the initial picks come through. Frustration perhaps for Australia, but they find yet another one. It's been a whitewash in their favor. Shawfall dropping down. It's going to be an unsuccessful self-destruct over on the point, and now Australia can start to use some of those resurrect charges. Valkyrie was drawn out from Canada in this fight early on, and that's nicely done. Gumba receives agilities with a headshot.
Yeah, they used Valkyrie and Sound Barrier. Did Canada? Looks like Australia will flip the point back in their favor, so big fight win there for Australia. Canada, you see they make some changes. Mangachu going over to the Pharah. So it seems like at least, the first 2 points, they start off with the Diva. As soon as they, either Mangachu dies or they take the point, that's when they'll have the switch coming into the Pharah. Let's see how Australia responds to it. They really have nothing to deal with this Pharah. They did make an adjustment in the last point. Let's see if they change things up here.
This is not a team that you want to disrespect the Pharah play from. Mangachu pretty much got his team into the World Cup because of this pick. And now the attack visor from Shawfall is able to get quite a lot of damage done. RQT in vain trying to get some sort of resurrect, but Mangachu's got so much freedom to do damage. Now the DPS of Australia step up to the plate though. Atar and Ichu up have found one each, and they might be able to turn this one around. It's going to be Trill, the smasher of good ults, and he gets himself the Primal Rage. Joe Meister down. Mangachu, it's time to decide that discretion is the better part of valor.
And it didn't look good for Australia at the beginning of the fight. It looked like Canada was putting together a pretty good approach, but Atar and Ichu up, go big. Trill there with the Primal Rage, knocks a few players back. Of course, it's Canada back, but I just wonder how many times are they going to be able to hold on like that. Now, at least for Australia, you do have the Dragon Blade, you have your Valkyrie, you have your Transcendence, you have some ultimates to work with. Canada doesn't really have anything coming into this fight.
Dragon Blade, Shawfall's been isolated, he's been taken down. First pick there, and Mercy's not going to be able to get there. Rook wants the res, but he didn't make it that far. Trill cuts him down, a shocking reception before he can find his quarry. And now Atar sat back off the point, finds agility, he's just lurking off towards the side, and deals with him as it should be done.
It's an easy win there for Australia. The Dragon Blade opens things up. Let's see Atar here with the 18 limbs. Playing quite well.
Atar, by the way, who hasn't played with his roster since Sydney. He sat out of the OPC and out of APAC. There was a replacement player in the blank roster, but he's come back in. It looks like he's hit the ground running.
And you can see Canada now, they have to get towards the point, 92% and counting. It'll be Mangachu with the Rocket Barrage. Trill just trying to stay alive. Mangachu gets Atar and Gunba during that. RQT falls at the beginning as well. It's going to be Canada trying to swing the point back in their favor here.
Trill going to try and medicate himself very quickly before he gets back to the point, but he's given a lot of space here for XQC to just wreak havoc in the ranks. Australia were close, but looks like they're going to decide just to back away here and allow this one to go through. Trill's there, RQT is going to commit to this. Res comes in for each up. Trill's staying alive somehow. The healing there from RQT was excellent. It might be the turn. Rook comes in for a res on XQC, and Canada have all their men back as well. Sound Barrier, Joe Meister gets it down, and Mangachu's looking to try and get some damage done. He's found RQT. One rocket connects, but now he's looking for the next one. Now the Mercy is down for Australia. Their healing's cut drastically with Gumba falling as well. Mangachu has single-handedly killed both of those supports on his Pharah because no one's going to cut him out of the sky.
They're not even looking at him. He just gets behind the enemy lines, takes out the Mercy, takes out the Zenyatta, and now there's no healing on the point for Australia. They're going to be forced to back up. So, they get off of the point. Oh, no.
It's so funny as well.
No, look at the Australians laughing. It's like everything's looking good. You see Mangachu flying in, trying to land some rockets, and it's like, oh. Well,
I was like, do I talk over Matt here, or do I ruin his
He got
point?
a little bit high in the sky, and I think he got off of it, and then you saw the Mercy behind him, I don't think was up there as well.
Yeah, so obviously Australia with a grin on their face, that was actually starting to look a bit nasty for them because they actually committed quite a lot of abilities and some ultimates into a fight that there was no point in extending because it was about 99%. So there's not much value in stalling that point out any further. You're better off just trying to group up and get back there. So that is what we call a C9.
Yes, that's a tough one there for Canada to lose. See what they do here on this next point.
That look on your face was fantastic.
Listen. I casted NA contenders. I saw a lot of that. All right.
Of course. Oh, Matt, those are the good times. Anyway, so that means we're up to a map 3.
Were they the good times?
This was, well, I had fun, bro. I had fun. This was the map where Australia booked their ticket to BlizzCon up against Japan in Sydney. This very stage. So let's see, of course, I mean, Mangachu's been excellent in that last map. It's surprising to see him even start on Diva, but this time he's just going to stick for that Pharah for the most part. And Gumba's trying to get a bit of damage up from the backline here. It's trading back and forth on the point thus far, but Australia never seemed truly committed to it here. They're in position, but this flank, that's nasty. Agility, he's almost in slow-mo. Gumba gets hooked back in, but he's able to get a bit of healing. XQC puts that to a quick end.
Yeah, Agility's a very good Roadhog. You see him connect with a hook there. XQC doing a 360 on the point. It'll be Canada. It'll get control first, and Surefour with an early first pick. It forces RQT to use the res on the HR. You don't have it as that fight extends. So those early pickoffs, you know, they're not as important as they once were, right? But just getting the Mercy to burn the res pretty much instantly, and then as those fights extend, you may not get it back.
There's value in it. As long as you don't commit too much and risk losing a player on your own, if you can trade a res for you know, some damage, that's super worthwhile. Now, Mangachu, who's going to deal with him right now? He's got a lot of free space to roll him up on high, and Agilities is going to go for the whole hog here. Again, forced to use that at long range, and Australia have control of the point because they were on the low ground. It doesn't seem to have bothered Canada too much. They simply drop down. Atar's been braced again now. We're going to have a Transcendence from Gunva. RQT with a second res of the fight, with Kiki and Atar are brought back in the Dragon Blade. The timing is good. Shortfall can't do much about that at all. Nicely done for Trill to secure that kill, but Agilities, Rolf, and XQC are still up on the point. Australia trying to give the Reinhardt a lot of respect, but the Earthshatter still comes through. Eventually, XQC is dropped. The shield is easy for a Genji to get around, and Atar makes sure he gets the job done.
You gotta still deal with Agilities though. So much HP on Roadhog. He takes out Trill. He's gonna take a breather. He's gonna back out a little bit though. The point does go over to Australia. See, it's gonna be Kiki having to use the self-destruct as he gets demeched here. He'll get it back on the point. Trill still has his primal rage to extend this fight for Australia if Canada can get on in. Sure with the tack visor, look to see him do damage. They force RQT out of position. They get him out of the fight early.
Now, losing that Mercy early is so bad, because even if they respond with a pick on XQC, Rolf just heals them up. Having the res advantage is huge, but Atar and Ichirapa here on the point yet again. Australia is still in control. It's 52%. The Pulse Bomb committed after the fact, perhaps even frivolously so, but it still secures the team fight win. Joe Meister is now staggered by Ichirapa, and Australia put themselves in pole position now to hold out nicely over the next couple of fights.
And Atar kills Agilities as soon as he pops the whole hog, so he loses that ultimate ability, immediately switches off of Roadhog. He'll go over to Genji, you'll have Surefour switch things up, he'll go over to Tracer, so you're gonna have those two players getting extremely aggressive with Mangachu putting a lot of poke damage down from the sky.
Ichirapa again, playing around the middle of the map. Needs to be very, very careful not to get picked off here. Stay safe. Atar's found Joe Meister, and RQT's down yet again early in the fight. This is not good. Another fight where Canada have that res advantage going through. They may not even have to use it. Atar went for a Dragon Blade earlier on, and it seems that he got very little for it. Perhaps the one pick. Mangachu living dangerously. It's a shuriken that catches him in the wing. It's clipped. He's brought down to the ground, and Trill and Atar together are making this happen. Canada look to be a little bit scattered right now, man. They're not where they need to be. Joe Meister is going to attempt to stall, but it won't be enough. And that's quite the start for Australia. Map 1 to the green and the gold.
A lot of people coming into this series probably thought that Canada was the favorite. Australia wins that map 1. Makes you extremely happy, makes all the Aussies at home extremely happy. And it's interesting because they never really dealt with Mangachu's Pharah. They just kind of let him go, and they just got extremely aggressive, kept pushing into the line, the back line of Canada, able to win those fights with ease and then just extend it on the point.
Yeah, it's going to be a breath of relief here for the Australian squad, now realizing how they stack up. After the break, it's map 2 on the other side. We'll see you when we return.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
What's that, Skippy? Australia got the first map. That's right, if you've missed it. Oh man, you missed out on some action. It was Oasis going to the Australian squad here. I'm obviously Uber here with Mr. Rex. We're going to be jumping pretty much straight into King's Row. Again, the series continues here, but Canada looked a little bit shaky than we might have expected.
I think after Canada, for the lack of a better term, C9, the second point.
There is no better term.
Sadly, there is no better term. I think you saw them kind of get a little bit flustered. I think it actually brought a lot of life into the Australian roster. We saw some shots of them on the stage. They were all laughing, excited, kind of
incredulous.
Yeah, well, it makes like kind of dealing with the crowd, right? A little bit more pro-Canada. Makes it a little bit easier to deal with, a little bit sigh of relief there. Now going into King's Row, I think for both teams, this is where we see a lot of Reinhardt playing, right? Expect to see a lot of Ryan Zarya. Expect the Junkrat to come out from, both of these teams.
Absolutely.
And Junkrat's very effective on this map.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot of a variation as opposed to what we saw previously, especially with the second and third stage that Reinhardt's going to be quite relevant when it comes to your very narrow angles of approach. Junkrat, of course, can make life hard for a Reinhardt there, and Zarya can get a lot of value from her shields. Australia going to be on the defensive side now, going to be the green yet again here, and you can see they have that Reinhardt and Zarya comp. They're going to be bringing in a Soldier 76 for ATAR, so that's, encouraging. We didn't see that at all in that first map. And RQT is actually going to be on the outer here. He's starting to fall out of favor a little bit recently, I guess, with... Oh, there we go. Mercy being
I was going to say, on the defensive end, you are at a pretty big disadvantage if you don't have the res. I think you need to have the Mercy. I think we're going to see pretty much every team run Mercy at all times during this tournament.
Right.
I think
also, RQT doesn't really play a lot of banner in this lineup anyway, so it would have been a surprise to see it nonetheless.
Yeah, it'll be Canada on offense to kick things off. You'll have agilities on the Genji. Surefour will be running the McCree, so maybe we see them kind of damage boost Surefour. You get the Discords coming out of Rolf and see if he can just pick players off at range, or get them extremely weak, let agilities get in, finish them off.
Yeah, I mean, Surefour is so frightening on this McCree pick here, so it's all about him connecting around the sides of Trill Shield. We don't see him play much Reinhardt in the past, actually. Definitely been more of that Winston player in recent times. You see Mangachu again, just trying to give himself a little bit of extra energy. He's going to poke inside the hotel, maybe force some aggression out, and just try and create a bit of dissension in the ranks for Australia. ATAR's been taken super low on the high ground. He's been pressing down, but agility's just dropped. So that dive component for Canada is down. Australia are going to be turning this attack back in the face of Canada, and that's a pretty confident response.
Yeah, you saw the position that Canada was taking. They're trying to force Australia into that back left corner, right behind the hotel. You had agility to get it towards that high ground. Maybe he can put down some shots onto the back line, but Aichi up goes right up to the high ground on the Tracer, takes him out. And after that, the push kind of fell apart for Canada.
Good response there as well from RQT to make sure he kept ATAR alive on the high ground. Of course, Australia are a little bit split across this map. Going to play on the high and that low ground, but Surefour now looking for a flanking opportunity. ATAR's actually dropped down, so this is a very good time for Surefour to be behind enemy line. He knows Australia want to play forward, so he's going to use that against the ball. The pulsar, the Helix rocket came straight towards him and almost took him down. Very quick recall force.
Yeah, RQT uses his Valkyrie. He's able to bring Aichi up back into the fight. Agility, he's using the Dragon Blade. He gets two. It's going to be Goomba coming back into the fight here, as now both reses have come out for Australia. They'll lose their Mercy, they'll lose their Zenyatta. You still have some ults coming into the next fight, but that is a team kill in favor of Canada. They should take point A.
That was dominant. That was excellent work from Canada. Using Surefour in the back, not only to obviously draw a couple cooldowns out, but to put Australia's attention both in front and behind them. Canada, when it came time to dive, they executed it very well. Let's watch this again. So Rolf the Transcendence, this is a follow-up that aggressive push. Gumba does get resurrected, but there's so many kills happening in this fight. It's one by one the Australians are being cut down there. Canada really dot their I's and cross their T's in that fight.
Yeah, if Gumba comes back a little bit earlier, maybe you see them use the Transcendence. He dives really early to Rolf. So nicely placed Zenyatta orbs there, so they're going to burn the res right away. Trill takes out agilities. Be Surefour with a pulse bomb on ATAR. Here comes Joe Meister with his res. It's going to be the Transcendence now, forced out from Australia.
Yeah, the Graviton Surge being used there by Kiki to very little avail. There was obviously a Transcendence back that up from Australia, so interesting to see how these ultimates are being used in this fight, but now the res is there. Joe Meister in Valkyrie, up on high, and again Australia look like they're going to get staggered out of this fight yet again. They look a little bit disjointed.
And here's what's dangerous for Australia. I mean, you use the Transcendence, you lose the fight. Now you don't have your Valkyrie, and the next fight you're going to have agilities with the Dragon Blade. You have nothing to counter that. You're going to have the Transcendence as well to keep him alive. Now you're going to stagger ATAR. This is not looking good for Australia on King's Row.
And look at all the ground, all the real estate that Canada are taking now. RQT, again, he's having his res force out from him far earlier than he'd like to use them.
And you see on the cart, we go in a little bit of a picture-in-picture, but IEQ is still alive for Australia. He's behind enemy lines. He's going to force Mangachu to go back, help the support. So he's trying to buy a little bit of space here for the Australian roster. Here comes the Dragon Blade. This one's going to be big. He slices through one. Oh, it's going to be Atar answering back there with the tack visor, taking out Agilities.
Gumba gets resurrected, so the effect of that Dragon Blade has essentially been nullified in this fight, but he went down. Another res here. Australia keeping their numbers high. This is where they really need to stand. The payload's very close to this next checkpoint. They need their numbers on the ground. So far, Rolf just keeping a respectable distance, but Joe Mice has fallen to his opposite number in Gunba. Now on the high ground, RQT has been discorded, but he's keeping himself pretty slippery, pretty elusive, and Rolf has to face the music up on the payload, and Atar is more than happy to deal the damage.
Atar and IEQ have been fantastic for Australia. They stopped the push from Canada thus far. Now in the next fight for Australia, you're going to have your grab, you're going to have your Earth Shatter, two big ultimates, and nothing really available for Canada. I mean, you're going to have a self-destruct, and you're going to have Sureforce Pulse Bomb. It'll be Agilities taking out IEQ up. See if that gets res, but that's a big kill.
Yeah, beautiful stuff from Agilities. He was playing a long way ahead of his team, and again, that early res has been drawn out. That matters right now, especially with the way Overwatch is working currently. Graviton Surge coming in. Canada's mostly caught in the here. RQT being hunted down, but it was actually shield being put on him. Agilities couldn't quite dash through. He actually managed to find a kill on the Mercy regardless, so that's no reses, no Valkyrie available on the fight, or as Joe Meister now is doing the work on the ground. The healing's getting done. Pulse Bomb to Mangachu. Kiki is fully charged and ready to rumble up here on the payload. This might be unsuccessful. It's going to be Atar getting knocked out of the way, and XQC might just get this done himself. There's nothing Atar can do. He can't get to the payload. He's being pushed away, and that is going to be that second checkpoint coming up here for Canada. Australia battered and swatted away.
That was such a great Primal Rage. It's basically a 1v1. It's XQC going up against Atar. As soon as I think it's Rolf gets back into the fight for Canada, he pops the Primal Rage, knocks back Atar over and over again, and lets Rolf single-handedly just kind of escort the payload just a little bit that it needed to go for Canada to force that second checkpoint going towards the map completion.
In a meta where Winston can't jump in the backline and just Primal Rage whenever, that's perfect use of that to give yourself that map objective. Australia look like they really want to try and control the high ground here, and Atar wants to challenge Agilities out on these Genjis. Into the backline they go. Transcendence was forced out there. Agilities got in and made sure that Gunba had to use that key ultimate, and now the Dragon Blade comes out afterwards. The timing is just so good. RQT tries to get away. It's a quick and hasty dash with the Valkyrie to get out of harm's way, but Agilities found that one kill already. RQT, though, in Valkyrie, gets that res on towards Gunba, keeps the Zen alive.
And he is not alive for much longer. He will get res for the second time, though. See, it's going to be IEQ up. Gunba finishing off some kills on the payload, so Australia will hold on here. They're going to have a Dragon Blade for the next fight. They're going to have Pulse Bomb as well. See, Canada with 2 minutes, 2 minutes and counting left on the clock. You'll have another Primal Rage, have another Pulse Bomb for Canada. You don't have either of your support ults here. You're not going to be close to either of them in this next fight. Not going to be close to a grab either. I think if you're, well, I mean, you don't have any support ults on the other side. So I think if you're Canada, right, you try and get the Dragon Blade out, maybe the Pulse Bomb to be wasted, and then you come back in that next fight really looking to put it away.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the Pulse Bomb efficiency between these two. That's definitely going to be an important part of this fight. Or get a pick on the Mercy. Yet again, RQT's down. No res. Agilities, though, gets rezzed up by his Mercy, who's still standing. Australia are constantly behind the 8 ball here at the start of these fights, losing that key target or that key component of their support lineup. Atar is going to be struggling to get out of here. I'll give you the big tip. Somehow, though, Kiki comes to the rescue. Atar, 3 points of health. Agilities catches him with a wayward shuriken, but RQT's now back to get the res. 1 minute, 18 seconds on the clock for Canada to finish the map.
And Australia, they do have the Primal Rage. You have your own Pulse Bomb here. You're going to have your Transcendence as well. So you're going to be able to deal with this Dragon Blade from Agilities as soon as it comes in. Sureforce switches off of the Tracer. He'll go over to McCree. Maybe you're playing around this grab Dragon Blade combo for Canada, try and push the payload to the end.
Transcendence and Valkyrie up for Australia right now, but for Canada, they're a little far away from the Valkyrie. The Trance is there for Rolf, though. Big support ult usage in this fight. Agilities tries to get some damage down early before he goes for the Dragon Blade, but he knows Valkyrie's in play right now, and that Australia are getting a lot of healing from RQT. This is an insurance policy. Joe Meister going down early. He's nasty, and Gunba turns about face, and he stands and delivers to Agility. She just crumples. Shawfall's able to find a headshot on each one, but he's rezzed up straight away. And Australia now group up together. Last 30 seconds.
Yeah, and the Valkyrie comes out from RQT. It keeps Gunba alive, and Agilities is trying to force that Transcendence out. There's no reason for Gunba to use it because the Valkyrie's so much healing coming down from Mercy. It's going to keep him alive all the way through it. Now it's going to be on Australia to get this Transcendence off, not have Gunba die. You need to keep him up. because there comes the grab, there comes the Transcendence. Let's see, they're going to wait to probably use this Dragon Blade.
Transcendence using just the right time, but now Agilities needs to make the difference with this Dragon Blade. It's all or nothing, and he goes straight through. He's found Gunba early on. Shore4 actually getting rezzed up by Joe Meister to hang around in this fight, and Canada have the numbers going forward. Crucially, Kiki tries to stay alive and keep this one stalled out, and now it's going to be up to Trill to do the same. He found Mangachu to jump back in here from Trill, but he's so low. Ichu Up has also had better days. A hasty res now. Trill's back on his feet. The Winston is in control, and Canada are nowhere to be seen. Agilities is off towards the side. It's desperation. The pulse bomb dropped a little bit strangely on the outside of the bubble, but XQC, he's trying to stay alive through all this damage. He has a Harmony Orb, and the Mercy healing is keeping him on his feet. This is incredible. Now, self-destruct down, but it was inside the barrier. Canada look like they're going to turn this around. They got Wolf coming in with the Transcendence. That's so massive. Trill has to get the heck out of that fight. Kiki gets desuited, and he's taken down. Atar's only able to find one kill with Shore4 and XQC responding. Canada against the odds. They've made their way through. What a scrappy fight. What a brutal affair. But now they're sailing right towards the end of King's Row.
And Agilities has another blade here towards the end. Doesn't even need it. Canada will complete King's Row. And that was a phenomenal just by the supports of Canada to keep XQC alive just long enough. Joe Meister comes in with a tremendous res, brings XQC back into the fight. Then you see Rolf coming in with the Transcendence just in the nick of time to keep everybody up. Clutch plays by Canada at the end. They do complete the map. No time left in their time bank, though. We'll see what Australia can now do on offense.
That is pure grit from the Maple Leaves there to hang on in that fight. And you can see how these fights start from something very small. They cascade, they snowball into a winning fight. It was Canada running in. It was a resurrect on towards XQC once he went down, and all of a sudden the rest of Canada were there in numbers.
And we thought this series was going to be scrappy. It has definitely delivered. You know, a lot of these fights just extending so long, you know, big clutch plays from the supports. Now their Agilities, I mean, he waits for the Transcendence to leave as soon as Mangachu throws down that Graviton Surge. And then he's able to get one with the Dragon Blade, comes back, picks up another. And you think that opens it up, but Australia able to just extend the fight even longer. The supports have to get back into play for Canada. Man, what a tremendous play by the supports for Canada. Rolf and Joe Meister coming up big towards the end.
And that Transcendence from Gunba looked like it had sealed the deal for Australia there. But Agility's waiting on the use of Dragon Blade, uses it after that had finished. And yeah, the McCree from Shore4, definitely worth mentioning. He was huge in those final moments. He's the clean-up king in these fights, especially if he's got space to work with. So Canada finished the map. They have no time left in their bank, and now it's on Australia to see if they can finish with just a little bit more. Canada's defense going to have a Zarya. They're going to be using the Reinhardt as well. So fairly classic composition, a defensive McCree. So definitely a dive target there for Australia. If they can get Atar and Ichu Up into position. They're actually, okay, I wonder if they take the Lucio here. They're still undecided though. They're going to be taking the Mercy and the Zen as expected.
Yeah, it looked like we're going to see like an old standard dive comp, right? Where you have the Lucio for the speed and you're able to just Discord dive on in. But Mercy too strong right now. Shore4 with a pick right off the bat. So you can see what he can do on the McCree. Takes out Ichu Up. That'll stall things out for Australia. They'll have to back up, wait for their Tracer to get back in the fight. And that is one where we talked a little bit about, you know, where the player dies as opposed to, you know, if you get first blooded. Right there, he dies diving in deep. No opportunity for the Mercy to rest.
Now you can see already, Agility's getting into the backline. Trill's forced to try and deal with the threat of that Tracer there. And yeah, no Resurrect was drawn out towards Ichu Up. He got picked off across the map by a McCree headshot. And sometimes, as the Australians say, you've got to let that just go to the keeper. But Trill's jumped in. Here's that dive we were looking for from Australia now. Getting that healing coming through. And this is the dive. Shore4 and Joe Meister are down. There's no Resurrect available for Canada, but Australia still needs to be careful. They need to respect the damage that's available and the survivability of these tanks. XQC is more than happy to stand and deliver, but the Pulse Bomb is going to make life a little bit hard. He survived because he was shielded by Isaiah, but Rolf wasn't nearly as lucky. And that's going to be this first point pretty well taken. It's 2/3, and Mangachu will throw himself at this point, but to little avail. Australia are on the board, they're on the road, and they've got 5 minutes and 20 seconds to do it.
There's a beautiful dive from Australia. They forced Canada to that back left area. They were not able to fight out of that position. The Valkyrie comes out from RQT, the healing from the Mercy, just keeping everybody up. The reses as well. It's a pretty straightforward fight there for Australia. Ichu Up trying to get behind enemy lines here. Used his Pulse Bomb in the last fight, doesn't have it now. For Australia, you'll have Transcendence. You'll also have your Primal Rage. Canada comes back into the next fight. You'll have Deadeye, and you'll have your grab as H-Up gets Agility's very weak here, trying to win the Tracer 1v1.
Yeah, H-Up now has to be a little bit careful. The rest of his team has joined him though, and Australia have gained a lot of ground. And H-Up obviously in that flanking position. Now it makes it a little bit hard for XQC to focus on just one thing. Graviton Surge used, but there was no follow-up there. I'm not sure what Mangachu was going for. Another Transcendence follows it in. Gunberg uses that one, keeping Australia nice and topped up, but it's responded to by Rule. Both Zenyatas have used their Transcendence. And Gumba has to do it on his own, but you better believe he's up to the challenge. Agilities doesn't get close enough, and the headshot finds him. Atar, great healing from RQT. He's able to get back out of the fight. The Dragon Blade almost finds Mangachu, but he just stays alive. Excellent use of the barrier by Desire for Canada, but the rest of his team have fallen by the wayside.
Canada opens that fight up with a grab in their Valkyrie. They get nothing for it, then they have to use their Transcendence. And Australia just kind of like backs out. They're able to hold on. They use their own Dragon Blade, and they push the payload on view. They also, for Canada, they use their Earth Shatter during that fight as well. They got nothing for any of those ultimates. It's a big loss there for Canada, as Australia looking good here on offense.
RQT with Valkyrie available here. You can see they're going to start off the fight, just try and throw the self-destruct in their Agilities. He gets caught by it. That should never ever happen. XQC's forced to go on his own toward the payload, and they're not there. Australia's able to push through pretty comfortably. Canada just didn't get the numbers there in time. Clever, cerebral play from Australia to pave their way to the second checkpoint by using that self-destruct to give Canada pause for thought and even strip a player from that roster.
Yeah, you wouldn't even think that the self-destruct picks anybody up. You're just using to kind of create space, maybe force some players over towards that payload so you can pick up some easy kills. It takes out Agilities, it forces XQC onto the cart, and he's all alone, nobody else there. He falls for Canada. The second checkpoint has been taken by Australia. Now Australia, you're going to have both of your support ults. You're going to have a Dragon Blade. You're going to have Pulse Bomb. A lot of good ults here. Mangachu is going to need to land a sick grab here for Canada.
Well, Atar's caught in the grab at the very least, but he's able to prevent a lot of that damage coming through. Very little avail once again from that. But Shortfall's found 2 quick kills. They're both res though. How little can you do now? He's going to go for the try and Deadeye from the backside, and he found Gunber. So again, he's killing people over and over. His Shortfall, they're being resed every single time. But it looks like Canada might have an opportunity to establish a foothold here in this fight. Atar can only really look on in dismay as the damage core of his team is cut down, and the Agilities kill is very much just a consolation, as Australia are going to have to regroup here with 4 minutes to get the payload towards the end of the map.
I was going to say, I mean, there's still so much time for Australia to complete the map. I mean, you have about 4 minutes and counting. You know, they're going to have a Primal Rage in this next fight. You know, a lot of ultimates used by Canada in the last one. So you have XQC with the Primal Rage. Joe Meister's going to get close to his Valkyrie, but that's going to be Agilities falling early at the hands of Atar. Joe Meister goes up for the res. Can't go up there in that position, as it's going to force XQC to use the Primal Rage to just extend this fight for Canada.
Deadeye coming through. Kiki realizes he can't protect much of his team from that Deadeye from where he was, but Atar reflects it anyway. That's a 1-for-1. Easily done, and H2Up's going to press his way forward. Joe Meister trying to keep players up for Canada, but it's not enough. Australia are hitting him like an avalanche, and there's nothing they could do. In Canada, it's either winter or July, but it looks like they're not ready for the snowfall here. The Aussies are across the line. Both teams to finish the map for the Australia with 3 minutes and 14 in the time bank. That's 3 minutes 14 more than Canada. That's quick maths.
And we talked, I was waiting for somebody to do it. I didn't expect it to be you. I thought it'd be Golden Boy, but we talked about it. It's like, it's not those first kills, it's where the first kills happen. Agilities dies up top. What happens? It baits Joe Meister up top on the Mercy. He doesn't get the res off. He dies as well. So now you've lost your Genji. You've lost your Mercy. You don't have the opportunity to res. Forces XQC to use the Primal Rage just to stay alive, to potentially get the Genji, get the Mercy back in the fight. He gets taken out quickly. Everything else falls apart for Canada after that.
And now a moment. A brief reprieve as the onslaught from Australia, especially in that last stage, surely will have rattled the Canadian squad. They'll probably be a little bit frustrated because there have been multiple times, even in this series, where the communication and even just a matter of standing on the payload or standing on the point or not has hurt them. It's cost them dearly. And Australia as well, maybe a little bit shocked themselves to be in this particular position. And the way things stand now is that Australia, like we've said, have 3 minutes and 14 seconds to take 1 tick on that first point, which means 1/3 of a full capture circle is all that they require.
It's going to be hard for Canada. Looks like at least at the beginning, 14 Canada on defense. You're going to have XQC running the Orisa. Mangachu, he's like, guys, I did this in Contenders. By the way, it didn't work. But maybe it works here, as he'll be running the Torbjorn. You have Agilities on the Roadhog. So something you could do with XQC on the Orisa, you kind of gather everybody up. You get the hook in, it's a guaranteed kill. Maybe we see Canada try and do that, bait some players into the Torbjorn turret as well.
Trill pressing forward now. We realize there's an Orisa in play. There's a shield, but again, that shield doesn't prevent any of Trill's damage from coming through. Orisa can't prevent that from occurring. The turret's down, but Kiki gets desuited at a cost of getting rid of that Torbjorn turret. Good timing from Chill, though. We know he needs to go in now. Atar has found 2 quick kills. The Torb and the Mercy are both down, but now it's going to be Canada responding. It's a good response. In fact, it's just the 2 tanks now that Kiki needs to deal with, but look at the damage. There's so much of it. He's going to be burst down so fast. XQC falls on that Orisa. Australia have the spawn advantage. They come up much closer to this point. They're going to try and maintain the pressure, but that was stunning from Rule. Catches the 2 up just as he gets out of spawn and takes all that momentum away from the Australian side.
And Canada has some ults now to work with. You have the Tac Visor from Surefour. Agilities has his whole hog. You have your Transcendence as well. Let's see how they play around these ults. They're going to need to use them a little bit earlier, all right? Because, I mean, there's only 1 point they have to take. It's going to be a Reflect and a dive that comes in. It'll be Atar taking out the Torbjorn turret. Surefour uses the Tac Visor, able to take him out. The Transcendence comes in from Australia. It's going to be the Valkyrie as well. There'll be 1 res coming out from RQT. Joe Meister and crew trying to fight back here onto the point.
Yeah, this has actually turned against Canada to a degree. Rolf and Surefour have been able to make things happen now, and Surefour's going to use that shield to protect himself from the self-destruct. Again, Kiki only gets himself a turret and he's left on his own. This is where the snowball begins. Surefour's being chased down by Atar. He's found him. He comes straight out of sport and finds his target. But it's not quite enough yet. Rolf being low and XQC close could be a problem though for Canada. Atar's getting rest, and now the numbers are starting to heap up against Canada. It's inexorable. The crushing weight of Australia. They get that point. It's 2 maps to none.
Oh, Canada. And Joe Meister gets there at the final seconds. He just flies to Agilities. Then he pops the Valkyrie. Split second too late, though. They were not able to get back onto the point. Would have been huge, you know, if he had another second or 2, right? You pop the Valkyrie, you would have brought XQC back into the fight on the point. You maybe would have been able to bring Rolf back as well. Maybe you extend that a little bit longer for Canada, but they find themselves down 2-0 to Australia here on the brink of elimination.
And strictly speaking, that composition from Canada on the defense was not troll or anything like that. There's serious potential for that composition to get an early lead or win that first fight and then start to just trickle through those ultimate abilities and make it hard for the attackers to penetrate through. But as it stands, the Sons of the Southern Cross are 2-0 up against Canada. And what we're going to do is take a quick break. We're going to head over to the desk as well and get their thoughts on how this game's transpired so far.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
RQT's leadership, man, it was definitely something that I found to be a marvelous thing to watch. You know, he might not be this flashy player that you see making all the plays in game, but you can tell that his leadership definitely is super paramount when it comes to his team's success.
I'm primarily the shot caller and I'm in charge of kind of directing our team. I have a big responsibility there. I also play the support.
And here's RQT, the team captain, playing the Lucio role. His idea is to give healing and speed to his team.
He's a very strong caller and communicator, and ability to react and sort of make changes to their approach to the game when they run up against a brick wall.
RQT was kind of the voice for his team. I feel like he definitely got the edge out of them, and I think in those pressure situations, RQT was kind of the one on the comms, keeping everybody composed and making sure that they finished strong in front of the home crowd.
It's a combination of being an intelligent player and having the right attitude, because if you have the attitude, you can eventually catch up to having strong mechanics.
They're sticking together. They're very much holding in the same area, and that's a huge boon for Australia moving forward.
Australia is a dominant force to be reckoned with when it comes to Overwatch, because in a lot of games so far, Australia really hasn't had that domination and would be looking to change that.
While the crowd may be on the side of Team Canada, it is RQT and the boys who are currently up in this series 2-0. And you saw right there, we had a chance to get to know a little bit more about RQT. But joining us now on the desk is Serenity, manager for Blank Esports, as well as one of the committee members for Team Australia. How you doing, my friend?
Well, doing great, especially after the 2 games that we had. Some were close, but we came out on top.
It's almost as if we planned this out, to have you up here at that moment. RQT, I mean, this guy, he's the captain of this team, and he has to keep a cool head on his shoulders. What is it about RQT that has helped this team rally the way that they have?
He brings a lot in terms of making the team work together, hits shot calls before a fight starts, and brings together everybody's individual elements. Especially since we've been together as a team for almost a year now. Outside of the game, that's very important as well. Keeping a good team environment, good banner going, and that's been going on for a long time. And a lot of teams have fallen apart, just 1 or 2 series into their team's career, but we're still together.
Yeah, that's right, and I think that's just something that has really been impressive with this Australian lineup. And furthermore, when you talk about what ended up happening here, they go to APAC, James, and they don't have, what was it, Kiki as well. I have it in my notes here.
ATAR.
Kiki and ATAR.
Yeah.
And then they, have some success out there, come back out to the States, and it's almost as if it's like a glove. It just fit like a glove. These guys are clicking, and I did not expect this.
That's what I was most surprised about. When we go into this matchup, the first thing you're gonna think is agility's Genji, but no, it was ATAR, and we have so much footage on him as we do roll it, both across, I forget, Oasis and then King's Row. He had an amazing performance, and I was surprised because, well, he hasn't played with him in the last 3 months.
What was most impressive for me, because I was also surprised by his play, but the core of this team is used to playing around a Soldier 76 and that other DPS spot, which is a completely different style of play. But Serenity, you know better than anyone else how adaptable this team is.
It's been a while since ATAR and Kiki has played with us, but they were together with us for the most part of our time together as a team. And a lot of the things that we knew about each other still apply. ATAR has been famous in Australia as the best Genji in the whole Oceanic region. And coming into the States, we felt like we knew that Canada was going to be playing a lot of Pharah. But we decided that comfort picks was better for us, so ATAR on Genji would be better for the team in the short-term environment.
Yeah, and clearly it's working so far. Again, I did not expect this to be the case. Not to take anything away from the Aussies, because I love the Australian team. Being on Sydney, that was an incredible experience, life-changing. But that being said, though, you look at the names, right? We have some Overwatch League players on the other side here, and I want to emphasize this because while none of our friends over on Blank Esports Team Australia, as well as ATAR and Kiki, are in OWL, they're giving it to some of these squads who are going to be playing in the Overwatch League this year. I think it just shows that the regions are slowly beginning to rise up here, which is very exciting stuff. But speaking of, though, one player who will be in the Overwatch League for due reason, because it was an incredible play, James, I want to talk about Joe Meister and that incredible res on King's Row, because that was just insane.
Yeah, so to set up this footage, it is going to be on that final push where we were in overtime, and it's XQC who's trying to stall out the point as much as he can, but as we get into this highlight, we see he falls, trying his best to keep the point alive, but the Valkyrie is going to get popped by Joe Meister here just to give him that extra speed. And you can see he's just zipping through across the map, comes instantly in, gets that res to bring XQC back into this.
And not only that, he was also able to pop Valkyrie at that moment, which refreshed the res in case they needed to use it again. And that just kept him going in that fight. I mean, look at that. Just flew right in like the savior that Mercy is. I know that you're a Mercy main, Hexagrams.
I actually wanted to talk about the support that I do play a lot here, because if you run that clip a little bit further, you see that Rolf comes in and transcends, and that's like the back-breaking moment there. And you saw the reason they got through King's Row first was the transcend, where he protects his whole team, then he gets 3 kills. He protects, then he attacks. And on the other side, it is also Goomba too, because Goomba is stepping step for step with Rolf. These Zenyatta players have been going bonkers.
One thing I will say though, looking at that clip, it was very apparent Australia need to be very mindful of their surroundings here, because they allowed Joe Meister to be able to make that play. They should have advanced a little bit further, and they were a little paranoid about maintaining control around the payload. So you gotta talk to your boys over there, Serenity.
Oh, definitely do. let Joe Meister around the corner get 30% just to get his trans out, and that was something that was just game-breaking right there.
Yeah, awesome stuff though, really from both teams across the board, and still we have so much more to come. But we do want to remind you guys once again about our friends over at T-Mobile. That's right, guys. You can vote for the MVP if you're in the Twitch chat. We see people actually, you don't need to tweet me, by the way. You don't need to tweet me with the T-Mobile thing. You just do it on your own, okay? Because my timeline's kind of blowing up right now. So very easy. All you got to do is use ! T-Mobile battle tag on Twitter, hashtag T-Mobile MVP battle tag. You already get it. I've said it quite a few now. If you haven't caught on quite yet, we have a problem. But don't worry, because I'll get you more throughout the show. So it's perfectly fine there. Big thank you to T-Mobile for supporting the 2017 Overwatch World Cup. But while we are talking about this matchup between Australia and Canada, coming up next, we have a team that is going to take this stage that has had one goal on their mind: become the Overwatch World Cup champions, defeat South Korea. This is China.
Here we are in Shanghai. We've got the Chinese home team crowd. They want to see China win.
Individually, those might not be the very best players of the whole of China, but if you combine them in a group, this is the best team China can possibly produce.
就虽然他们是难以战胜的，但是我觉得我们够强，我很有信心击败法国队。
Oh, that is brutal. China. China's just been so decisive.
And everyone undersold China.
All the weaknesses they tried to assume for China, China said, no way, we are doing just fine.
What makes them really strong is not only their individual skills, the mechanical level is at a very, very high level.
Eileen, an absolute monster with this Genji, and is really making a name for himself as one of the best in the world.
不知道小艾琳是不是最强的，但是我并不能找到一个比她强的人。
As a squad, they are so focused on what they want to achieve. They are so coordinated. When one person goes in, the other one ducks out.
The timing is so excellent from these Chinese players. The attack that China's putting on seems to just be very impenetrable. I feel like I'm watching a phalanx come through here, right? Where they're really ready for these flanks.
That's going to be it. China have punched their ticket to BlizzCon.
The crowd roars here as they take this entire qualifier without dropping a single map.
我觉得我们就应该努力的赢下每一场比赛。我们要战胜我们的对手，而不是战胜某一个人。
China definitely respected the teams they played against. That's what made them so dangerous.
China, scary, very scary for sure.
There is a lot of individual talent, and I can't wait to see how they get together.
中国队加油 ，China #1.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
The Overwatch World Cup is not just about stealing glory for oneself, but about representing your country with pride. And both of these teams have traveled far to do so. Canada first traveled to Katowice, fought it out against a host of frighteningly strong teams that have made their way here. Australia have made their way 12,000 kilometers to Anaheim to compete. It's 2-0 in this series to favor Australia. Canada need to find a response, and they need to do it here on Hanamura, Matt.
And we talked a little bit in the pregame, and the desk brought it up, but now that some of these guys on the Australian lineup have had no competitive play practice already in tournament play on this patch. And I think you're really seeing the difference between the Mercy players, right? Now, RQT has played fantastic on the Mercy. Now, in the last game, 18 reses, or Showmeister's was 14, and then also his healing was phenomenal. I mean, it took a little bit of time during the break. We were like, where did this game go sideways for Canada? They put down a lot of good damage. Now, they had the tanks playing reasonably well, but you looked at both of those Mercy players and the healing output every 10 minutes from RQT. I believe it was like over 5,000 more than you saw from
per 10 minutes, right?
Every 10 minutes on average.
So it's a big difference, right? Now, there are a lot of reasons that could be the case, but here's the thing about Australia. This team had middling performances at APAC, middling performances in the OPC. They didn't shock the world, but they were forged in the fires of the competition over in the Asian scene. 4 of those players now are joined by 2 of their teammates from Sydney. It is going to be Canada on the attacking side here on Hanamura, and Agility's on the Roadhog.
Well, you're going to see Canada go with triple tank here. So you're going to have the Brine, the Roadhog, and Mangachu on the Devo. We spoke to a decent amount of teams, and Devo with the missiles and the shortened defense matrix you can use her as more of an attacking hero, right? Now she's more of like a flanker, can get into a ton of damage, blow people up. We'll see how Canada decides to play this.
I think Diva's made for Mangachu as well. Farah has rockets now, Diva does too. It's just meant to happen. Agility's lands the first sword. Trill doesn't go down, but Agility's gets chunked extremely low himself. Forced to take a breather behind the safety of XQC's shield. But Shorefall drops to ATAR early on. He was damage boosted, and that's going to help a lot with getting that damage there. That means Canada really lack DPS rolls right now. Shorefall is hastily resurrected. That's an interesting push in, and Mangachu forced to turn around and deal with the Diva of Kiki. He is desuited himself. After the fact, Canada are getting a couple of picks here, but Australia stand tall for the time being.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, RQT uses the res, brings Kiki back into the fight, so they're going to be at full strength going into the next fight.
That was off camera for a reason, by the way. We can't show you that on television here in the United States.
As Sherborne stayed alive for a decent amount of time, they actually had to burn the res on him early. He dies outside of the point. And you saw ATAR, I know, at least from me, I did, from this minimap POV, he was actually just camping Sherborne's body.
And you can see on that minimap top-down view, most of Australia are back towards that right corner there where the building is. Again, they picked off Agilities early on. Another res drawn out for that fight. XQC tries to charge and through the whole Hopper's knocks back away. They're going to try and pressure forward nonetheless, though. XQC again, trying to keep his team alive, allow them to maneuver around this right side. And this time it's working well. Perhaps Australia have overcommitted to this fight and lost a couple of members outside of the safety of their healing. Again, XQC going to come forward to charge in over on towards the plinth. Attempting to try and bring the bell with his noggin, but he's still saving space, creating it for his teammates, and he also has that Earth Shadow to come if they need it. But Canada have cleaned that up quite admirably.
Yeah, just a lot of HP for Australia to get to Canada. You had both support ults there. You kept everybody alive. Agilities can keep himself up. This take a breather on the Roadhog. Just not able to happen for Australia on defense. It'll be Canada taking point A and locking point B. Sherfor getting in position here with Agilities. Try and contest for this high ground.
Good start from Canada. They definitely needed a first or second push take on that first point, but this is where it gets critical.
And it's interesting from Australia, you're going to have a solo Diva tank lineup here. You're going to have Trill go over to the Reaper, and then you're going to have ATAR go with the Genji. You're going to have Aichup stay on the Tracer. So interesting lineup coming out of the Australians, something we haven't seen thus far.
Trill used to play a lot of DPS, actually. Is considered to be definitely one of the stronger DPS players in that oceanic region. Mangachu gets pulse bombed out of his suit there. It was an attempt from Shorefall to try and reciprocate, but he gets very, very little for it. Again, going to be Kiki getting the resuit back on after his health was taken away by the pulse bomb being used. And Trill, hello! Hellfire shotguns finding their targets, and these big tanks, Australia respond to a tank-heavy approach from Canada by bringing Reaper, the ultimate tank killer, into the fold.
Yeah, and Agilities is going to move right off of the Roadhog. Once the Reaper comes into play, he's able to just chunk down Roadhog's HP. He obviously builds towards zone. Now, as soon as they force that switch out, now he goes back to Winston.
He knew they'd switch.
Great switches coming in from the Australians.
Australia seem to be one step ahead, at least in that regard. Trill knows that there's probably not going to be any more, of that triple tank play coming through. Love that. Love to see it. Really do. Now, it's going to be Canada try and set up on the high ground here again. Shorefall behind that XQC protective shield is going to be quite a potent tool for them, especially when attack visor starts to become relevant. He's had to back away. Bionic Field thrown down, and Australia here are just poking, and they're not all in on this yet.
I mean, Australia has both of their support ults. They're going to pop their Valkyrie here a little bit early, get offensive with it. Transcendence going to be the Transcendence that comes out from Canada. Mangachu connects with one with the self-destruct. Atar will fall as well, as Canada is starting to pick up some kills.
That's a huge overcommitment for Australia. They're trying to find Shawfor or someone, but now look how much space Shawfor's going to have as this fight continues. That's 1 out of 3. Australia are nowhere to be seen. They overcommit so deeply they can't even fall back and get to the point. Canada looking good. Transcendence desperately drawn out of Australia. They keep this round alive, but for how much longer? That's the question. XQC's cut down by the Dragon Blade, but is the only man on Canada felled. He gets rezzed by Joe Meister quickly, and look at all the space Shawfor has. It don't matter. There's a lot of space on the point too. And Canada, they strike back with alacrity. A very quick take of the map.
And you see, when you create space for Shawfor on a hit scan hero like a 76 or a McCree, he is so deadly. He gets up into that high ground position. Canada takes the point. Australia, nothing they could do to deal with him in that high ground, and catch it off camera. But Joe Meister actually falls as soon as they get onto point B. He spawns up, he has his Valkyrie, he pretty much uses it like by that first gate, by the spawn door, just to get back into the fight, flies up into that upper window. Guardian Angels right onto the point, brings XQC back in.
And you can see that Australia were nervous about allowing Canada to set up on that high ground outside the point with a Soldier 76 and Reinhardt. Once they have established position, Canada are going to be very, very difficult to remove. Australia do have to commit heavily to remove that Canadian presence, but of course that's a double-edged sword. It's a huge risk associated with trying to get your enemy out of such a strong strategic position, and it backfired on them, as it often can.
Yeah, I mean, they try to dive into the high ground using the Valkyrie from Mercy, and they just use the Transcendence to just stay alive through all that damage, and they never really got anything out of their Valkyrie. It's trying hard to kind of follow it, but it doesn't seem like they got either of the double reses. It didn't seem like they really got much of anything. And then did they have to use the Transcendence there in the final seconds, just use it on the point?
It's not ideal at all.
No, not ideal.
The reality is that Australia were trying to draw that Transcendence out of Rolf. I was actually saying, at the time that they overcommitted, I said, oh, you can see they're not committing yet. They're just poking, right? They made a dive and they sort of backed off and disengaged. And then they made another dive. They did draw out the Transcendence, but it seems as if they were already committed to the fight. They had made up their minds. So all that healing that Rolf could give the rest of Canada meant that Australia, their attempts were in vain. And not only that, but they'd given themselves up. They're the ones that threw themselves into the attacking team, lost position, and were 10 seconds away. 10 seconds is so long. The point was pretty much captured by the time Gummer got there with a Trans. But now, second half coming up, Australia, quite a big fish on their plate here. Try and get back at Canada and keep it even.
We'll see how Australia decides to attack this. They've pretty much stayed with this dive. We heard a lot of teams, maybe this is a meta that's more double hit scan. It seems like Australia are going to go with the standard dive. You're just going to swap the Lucio out for the Mercy. We know how powerful Mercy is right now. See Atar getting this high ground position, just putting down a ton of damage. You have Mangachu very weak. He's going to get the DMAC.
He got very good poke damage from up on that high ground. You can see that Canada didn't have anyone in the vicinity that could address Atar. He can line of sight. He can block line of sight from Shawfor by being up on that balcony and get a lot of free damage. Eventually, he has to commit. It looks like this is the time with XQC down. Drew Meister quickly in for the res, but they baited the Mercy to come in. They said, we know you need your monkey. We're going to make you pay for it. But Canada were ready as well. They respond. It's RQT getting Atar back on his feet. Mangachu is in the backside. Look at how much damage he's able to do. Australia are not addressing this huge threat directly behind them because there's such a big one in front as well. And Canada weather the storm. They hold on to the point.
It's a big play there by Mangachu. He gets right back in his mech. I thought that was going to go heavily in favor of Australia, right? They were able to get Mangachu demech to force his XQC pretty much at that time, like the solo tank. He doesn't have the luxury of the defense matrix coming in to save him once his Winston bubble falls. And he falls. Joe Meister comes in for the res. He gets taken out. XQC back into the fight. Shawfor, though, the big tack visor. Mangachu gets his mech back, goes into the back line, puts down a lot of good damage.
Huge opening from Shawfor, yet to fall with 11 eliminations. A lot of damage in on Julius, gets a couple of his own. Nicely done. Of course, the double res has to be drawn out here. The Valkyrie being used in Australia. They have no time to waste. Good pressure coming in here. You can see that Winston really making life hard. Trill up in the face of Canada, forcing them off the point. Shawfor alive. That's his first death of the game. Australia finally get those key targets, but they're not done yet. They split onto half of Canada. There's still the other half sat on the point. Half of Australia are spawning in, and they should be doing things by halves in general, Matt, but that seems to be the name of the game.
Yeah, Mangachu and Agility staying alive here for Canada. Australia, though, they're going to have the spawn advantage. Atar able to take out Mangachu there, get some demech. They'll go back to the point. So they invested a lot in that fight early. They actually led the way with the Transcendence in the Valkyrie. They stacked both support ults. They worked their way onto the point. They got the double res after the pulse bomb comes in. It's going to be a Dragon Blade here that comes out from Australia as well.
It's a huge investment here from Australia to come forward. Canada know they can actually hold on to this point. This is massive The Valkyrie up in the air and Joe Meister staying alive. It's going to allow XQC to do damage unfair to the healing's been very, very good. And IE is desperately trying to make things happen. He doesn't quite connect the pulse bomb, but he forces Rolf out of position. He has to recall though. The rest of Canada are there. This might be quite the series. Canada now seem to have woken up, and Australia aren't getting on this point.
Man, it would have been great if Australia had one of their support ults there. They ended up stacking both of them to get onto the point. Canada makes their way back. Kiki never want to be in that situation. The wave comes in from Mangachu, as it'll be Canada that holds on the defensive end there. Now for Australia, you only have a minute to go. You don't have either of your support ults. All you got is a self-destruct here for Canada. You know, you have your Primal Rage to stay alive. You have your Transcendence. They do not have Valkyrie, though. Neither team has it. It's going to be Australia that gets it first. It's going to be a kill that comes out from Rolf, taking out IE up to kick things off.
It's a 1-for-1. Both Tracers are down, but it managed to at least deal some damage. The res was there for Joe Meister, and Australia looked like they're trying to draw out aggression. Kiki's the one that actually gets rezzed up. XQC managed to deal with him with that Primal Rage, but Australia have to take their time here. This is such a good look from Canada, can I just say. The recovery's been fantastic, and the communication has been on point, where in the last few maps it's been weak, but now they're really going to have to make that work for him. Eitar's in, the Dragon Blade's also there. Looks like he wants to hold on and wait to the Transcendence for Rolf. He's done it now. Might be time to go, but he doesn't quite get the dash into the doorway. He can't catch Shortfall, and the slippery sucker's giving him a bit of a wave goodbye as he gets out to safety. Eitar, frustration, forced to resheath the blade. Fortunately, Etrap was there to do the work, and the point was taken in the process.
Yeah, they take the point, and Rolf and Joe Meister die pretty late. Let's see if Australia can take advantage of it. Maybe get onto the point here. XQC jumps up onto the DPS players up top, forces them back a little bit. Surefour with the tack visor here. Maybe he gets set up on the high ground, makes a difference.
This is chaotic stuff, but Agility's forced to trill here. Australia don't have any big ultimates to work with. They were hoping to try and use the man advantage and use it in their favor. But RQT's gone down to XQC, so a long fight will no longer benefit Australia. They need those res charges. Even though they're getting kills here, it's all well and good. Joe Meister's out of the picture. Australia now looking just to see what they can get done. They're unsure if this is going to be sufficient for them to take the point, and it probably won't.
They did get Joe Meister, though, to use his Valkyrie there a little bit early in the last fight. Rolf is going to build up towards that Transcendence. So you'll most likely have this in the next fight for Canada. You'll have your Primal Rage, and you still have Surefour with that tack visor. See Mangachu, he'll go off the side. He'll get a new mech, spawn right back in. Australia has done nothing really to work with in terms of support ults. You're going to get close to a Transcendence. You use the Dragon Blade to take point A. You're going to be building your way back up towards that. It's really just a Primal Rage here, which maybe they use to try and force out a Transcendence if they can put down some damage.
It will be a matter of trying to get some of these ultimates away from Canada. Australia need a distinct advantage at the start of this fight. Not having to deal with that Valkyrie is a bit of a bonus for sure. But look at what XQC he can do. He can waylay. He also gets the kill on Eitar, and that means that Australia really needs to go for a reset here very early. These are precious seconds being shaved off of Australia's time, whilst Canada are already ahead of them in time bank, regardless of what happens in this half.
Yeah, this next fight's going to be crucial for Australia. You're going to have both your support ults, you're going to have the Dragon Blade, you're going to have Primal Rage, a lot of utility to work with. See how they combine these ultimates, because you know that Rolf has a Transcendence. You know, you saw Joe Meister use his Valkyrie, in the previous fight. No, he won't have that. IE dies early here to Surefour, so that's a big first pick. If they can't res it, it's just going to allow more time for Joe Meister to build up towards another Valkyrie.
Agility's back behind. There was no res on each up. He actually had to respawn. I think Canada did a good job. Look, it's quite hard to resurrect those flankers, because they often have to go behind enemy lines. So generally speaking, it's not worth putting your Mercy in danger and having a big further staggered out. So it's now the matter of waiting for this Australian roster. Dragon Blade's there. Will Eitar go for it here? Yes, he will, but who's he looking for? Hard to say. He's found Agilities, though. A quick clean-up before the Transcendence could come out. Kiki takes down Joe Meister. It doesn't matter if he was inside the Zenyatta ultimate. It wouldn't have kept him alive. Both supports are down for Canada. This is a good start. This makes it harder for Canada to weather the storm, but Trill's fall into a Helix rocket from Surefour. Ichu up. Finally dips his toe on towards the point. Finds the water is just the right temperature, and the rest of Australia are going to join them now. They're pushing in on Canada. They're not letting them out of spawn. Surefour's forced to try and get away, and again, he's very agile this game. He's been hard to catch. The Canada have to trickle their players on. Australia now need to force them back. They need to get aggressive and take position. That's one tick down. The second one's on the way. Australia are looking good. It was a slow start, but a pretty darn nice finish. 1 minute 20 on the clock for Australia. Canada well and truly in the lead.
And Agilities uses a Dragon Blade. He gets one, but he's so low on HP. He's like forced back into the spawn door and tries to go out the other way. Never actually makes it out. Joe Meister not able to get back up towards that Valkyrie there towards the end. Finally gets it. Is not able to use it. Keep that one alive for Canada. So both teams take point A and point B, so we'll go into overtime here. It'll be Australia with 1 minute and 20 to work with. Canada with a lot of time, 3 minutes and 46 seconds.
You're very happy for Canada right now.
Yes.
This map has been a real turnaround for them. We've already cited, communication or perhaps spatial awareness being their downfall over the first 2 maps. This time it's been excellent. They're very good at playing a fine line. They're more than happy to give up a little bit of ground as long as it means that they can take back twice as much after the fact. There's investments, there's insurance policies. And no, it's not boring business talk. It is the game of Overwatch. And this is Canada playing fairly cerebrally in this particular map.
I think the difference for me for Canada on this map, why they've looked much better, has really been Surefour on the 76. I think he's gotten a lot of work done on the hit scan, trying to prevent some of these diving heroes. Atar on the Genji and IHU up on the Tracer getting into the backline. I think Surefour's done a much better job on this map than he's done on the previous 2.
Interesting that Australia have just not opted to play much Soldier 76 at all. I think we saw someone in map number 2. That's really been it. They're more than happy to keep Atar on this Genji. Definitely a throwback to the Halcyon era of the Sydney stage in World Cup, where we saw a lot of his Genji in particular. But Australia now will have to attack for a second time because they're behind in overall time bank. It's a minute 10, plays 3 minutes 46. They're the important numbers to keep an eye on here. And Ichup is already looking for those targets. Canada should expect him to be up here. If there's enemy Tracer, they're always going to go this way. The question is what Ichup does with this position.
I mean, with so little time on the clock, Australia maybe has one really good chance at it, maybe potentially 2, as see the kills going down as Australia is trying to force Canada back. It'll be Mangachu getting demech'd here as IHUp's getting a ton of damage. He's going to work his way back towards the point. It's looking quite good, though. For Canada, they're picking up some kills. IHU staying on the point, though, here is now it's going to be Australia getting the advantage.
Yeah, Australia have lost both their supports, though, so they need to just do damage. Their tanks and DPS plays are not going to benefit from healing, but it doesn't seem to matter because they're doing enough damage. First push, first take, Australia. Now they're on the board in this second half, 3-2.
So now it'll be Canada on defense with 50 seconds. They just need to get one really good hold here as we go back. We watch IHU up, and it's interesting. You have the support ults die. It's a nice stick with the pulse bomb there onto Surefour from IHU up. As there are no ults online here for Australia as we go back into game. It's going to be Atar getting very close to the Dragon Blade. It'll be Canada with no support ults to counter this.
They're close to them though. So Australia, if they don't get an early pick here, and they're going to have to back away here. So this probably gives those support ultimates away. They're going to res Gumber anyway. They're committing so much to this fight in which they never had an advantage. This is so bizarre to me, and it might be a struggle. Atar gets chunked down, pushed back away. Yeah, Primal Rage has been forced out from XQC, but again, they go in, they spend all this while they had no other choice, right? They couldn't wait a couple of extra seconds, Matt. 4 seconds remain on the clock. Australia had to go for it. They had no choice, and they're going to have to settle for just 3 points.
There's nothing they could really do there. I mean, you have to use the res on Goomba. RQT falls after that, and then you're kind of like, well, do we get no use of the Dragon Blade, or we just try and make some kind of hero play?
Yeah,
May as well use it. Not able to get back onto the point.
And I'm sitting there saying that this seems quite strange to me, but in reality, they only had an extra 10 seconds. So, yes, they could have potentially waited if like a Tracer had died or something, but you've just got to go for it at that point. Yeah. I mean, they're happy with that. A minute and a half. It was a bit of a horror beginning for the Australian squad now in general. So, Canada, to take the first point, much in the way that they did previously. They looked like they were pretty comfortable with it. And then, of course, it needs to be just one tick on the second.
We'll see. I mean, I think if you're Australia, you try and bank on getting a really good hold here at the beginning. Get some of that time depleted from Canada. I think you see Canada kind of storm through this first point. Would not be good for the Australians, as there's still some time for Canada make some changes, to the lineup they're running. But it looks like, at least at the beginning, it'll be XQC on the Winston, Surefour on Tracer, Agility is on the Genji, and then Mangachu will be running the Diva. So nothing too surprising from Canada. And they're just having typically with the Dive coming, you've just had Joe Meister playing the Lucio, he'll be playing the Mercy. Can't really go without the res.
And obviously XQC and Surefour have both chosen and been forced to spend a lot of time up on that point. Objective kills obviously is quite important. It's about being involved in the fights on those points or near to them. And of course, you can expect XQC to be in the front lines at all times. Now Canada going on the attack. You can see the stakes up on the board. They've got 3 minutes 40 to take this first point and then get a little bit on that second. That's pretty darn good. Pretty darn straightforward as well. Surefour coming forward. A lot of damage being dealt here, and Atar's forcing to a reflect, trying to get back to the rest of his team, but Mangachu pursues him. It's already 2 kills coming away from Mangachu, and Joe Meister keeps the numbers in their favor with XQC getting back up on his feet. RQT down. No healing, no res from Australia at this rate, with Kiki and D-suited and IHU up being taken down. That's going to be Canada on this point. They have got so much time to get themselves a map in this series.
That couldn't have gone worse there for Australia here on point A. So I believe it was Atar who dies first. RQT flies in, uses the res on him. As soon as he uses res on Atar, you had your tank die and you had your other DPS. fall as well. You were not able to do anything after that. Now Canada, you have 3 minutes and 20 seconds to take one tick here on point B. To keep your tournament chances alive.
Knocking on the door is Canada. They're going to keep themselves alive in this series. Agility falls down early, but Joe Master doesn't seem to mind. He gets the res, and now Shore4 finding a kill as well as Mangachu combining. Means that Canada still have a leg to stand on here. They're not fully committed. You can see that Mangachu is being very careful to give that defense matrix protection over towards his Genji, and the self-destruct comes in. This is going to force Australia off the point. This is where Canada can take position. And they force the Aussies off. There's not a lot you can do when that self-destruct is there, Matt. You just got to head for the kills. Now we have a series.
Well, I mean, you try and hide on the point. Agility is just going to cut you up with the Dragon Blade. As see Mangachu there with the play of the game, but you know, it was a good combination. The self-destruct on the point, clear players out. You try and stay like kind of behind one of those pillars. Agilities comes through with the Dragon Blade. He ends up forcing everybody back towards the spawn door. Then, oh, by the way, if Australia picks up a kill, you had Joe Meister in the sky with the Valkyrie, just giving down a ton of healing. Obviously, the double res as well. Nothing really Australia could do there at the end.
It's a best-of-5 series, so getting the map here for Canada was pretty much essential. And our next map as we come through is going to be Pure Escort, so that's going to be very interesting. We saw how tough it could be on King's Row for Canada, but we'll have to find out how that's all going to go down after a short break. Catch yourself some breath, because this series is far from done.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
Whether for the sake of theatrics or something else entirely, Australia has chosen to go for Junkertown as the 4th map in this series. Home ground advantage, not quite sure, but you can hear the didgeridoo in the background, and that means we're headed to the Outback.
I'm excited to see this map. We've been speaking to a lot of teams over the weekend. You know, a lot of crazy strategies could come out here on Junkertown. You know, the first point where you're pushing the payload so open. I mean, so many opportunities for numerous heroes, right? We can see a lot of Widowmaker on this map. You know, maybe we see, you know, some Orisa strategies on offense. You get the Torbjorn set up on the turret, you kind of like glide it on home. Be interesting to see what the Australians have up their sleeve, as they'll be on attack first.
This map, of course, is incredibly open over the first part of the map.
Yes.
Flanking is a huge possibility, and hit-scan heroes have far more potential to maintain sight lines on their foes. We see Widowmaker on this map particularly. We do see even Hunter make his own appearances. Snipers can be quite deadly in this open area. And Orisa has been picked up just to give teams safe passage on the attacking side through sections of this first winding area.
So you can see where Canada's playing right now here on defense, and you expect them to go with a little bit of a spawn camp here at the beginning, because for the sake of, you know, potentially Australia running like something like an Orisa and a Bastion and getting him on the cart, it's very difficult to break that setup. So that's why you're seeing Canada play so far up here on defense, playing pretty much right at the Australian spawn door.
Yeah, and this is also to try and deny some of these sight lines away from Aichu up here on this Widowmaker. Rolf goes down and Trill's fallen there to remote by Mangachu, and Australia are forced into a bit of a scrap very early on in this map. Canada happy to trade these kills, and that's the first pick. Joe Meister down. Ichup finally finds that first target, but he can get a lot of healing very easily. Just jumps back into spawn for a brief moment, but this is time that's being shaved off. Canada away laying the Australian roster.
Yeah, Mangachu already with a Riptire, though, doing a ton of damage. Surefour still on the cart, so no progress has been made by Australia thus far. As Rolf, he will fall. Surefour with a pulse bomb. As he takes out Aichu up, as he will now fall. So now Australia can start to make some progress. So Canada, they buy themselves a little bit of time there. Mangachu will make the change. He'll go over to Diva. You'll have Rolf switch off of Roadhog. He'll go over to Zenyatta. So now a little bit more of a standard comp coming out from Canada. Just trying to play up at that spawn door at the beginning of the game.
Pulse bomb for Atar. Ichup going to stay on this Widowmaker here. It can be tough for Canada to find safety. And again, to break those sight lines if Ichup is going to be set up in a very commanding position. He's actually on screen right now. You can see he's flanking right around his far side. He has a lot of warning to people that are trying to jump on top of him. And Joe Meister goes to that pulse bomb early, so this is a huge opening window for Australia to make extra progress here.
Oh, I mean, you don't have the res, you don't have the ton of healing that Mercy provides. XQC falls right after Joe Meister, as now they're trying to put a lot of pressure on Aichu up, but he just runs right on the mine. He's trying to get out of harm's way. Trill, yep, he's just advancing the payload. All die is lonesome here.
This is very appropriate, by the way. Roadhog sat up on the payload with all the jewels. It's going to be Joe Meister trying to jump down. He's picked up the hook, connects. Pulse bomb. Kiki actually gets a self-destruct at just that time. So this is going to guarantee Australia that first checkpoint here. It's been a really weird opening to this map. We haven't seen a lot of Junkertown, of course, in competitive, so it's tough to know what to look for. But again, the sight lines were strong. The Widow play was good, and each map really switched. There's a lot of verticality on this next stage.
I kind of expected this map to play a little bit scrappy at the beginning of the game because in that first point, right, there's so much wide open areas we talked about. There's so much potential for like flanks and 1v1 engagements. I expected to kind of see a little bit of a scrappier, not really as much team play as we usually see. Now as we advance through the map, a lot of verticality here for the defense to work with, as you see Surefour switch over to the McCree, trying to use that Orisa shield, try and put down a ton of damage.
And Triller's just going to be a sponge for that damage coming from XQC's Orisa. I really enjoy that pick in this part of the map. It's very good at giving your team a static environment to set up. What the heck was that? Trill caught agility somehow. Doesn't quite complete the kill though. It looks like the rest of his team will fall. Australia are going to be beset upon from all sides because the defending team in this case has multiple angles and also the high ground advantage.
We'll see how Australia decides to deal with this Orisa setup up top, as you're able to put down a decent amount of damage. You're able to just kind of keep putting these shields down over and over again. It's going to give Surefour some great cover. Now Canada, you've built up some ultimates to work with as well. No.
That's actually a big error.
Yeah.
XQC has to break line of sight completely. That shield wasn't supposed to be on the ground, and he had to wait for the cooldown to use it again.
And it's allowed Australia to move up a little bit, create some space. It's going to allow Atar actually to get behind, land a pulse bomb on Surefour. He will fall. Joe Meister brings him back into the fight. But now it's going to give Australia a little bit of an advantage, but Agility's doing so much work in the back line. Here's a blade. He's not able to get it out in time. He's going to lose that ultimate, taken out by Goomba.
And then Joe Meister just blasts him down with a Caduceus blaster. So I don't really know what the plan was there. And you can see how many segmented little conflicts or, confrontations are recurring over this map in different parts. Everyone's going 1 versus 1 against each other. But Australia have made progress. It's been a little bit slow, and Rolf is going to start off with a Transcendence here. So they definitely value stalling this point out a lot.
Oh, they need to. I mean, a ton of time here for Australia. It'll be the self-destruct going into the sky. XQC getting very weak. The Rolf taking out Atar. They're still running the Widow, so they're going to try and put some pressure towards the back as Joe Meister brings XQC back into the fight. It'll be the Transcendence that comes out here from Goomba, trying to keep Kiki on the point alive, but probably didn't need it.
This is a very impressive scoped accuracy from Aichu, but you need to realize he is shooting shields. So obviously those stats are padded slightly, but that's a very, very good number to have as a Widowmaker in general here. But Australia can't seem to get around the corner.
And I said you didn't need the Transcendence because you weren't really going to advance the payload that far. So now it's going to be Surefour against RQT. 1v1. Surefour will win that on the Tracer against the Mercy all day, but you kind of burned your Transcendence there if you're Australia. I mean, now at least you're going to have your Valkyrie, right? I mean, 95% in the next fight. You'll have your Primal Rage to keep you up, keep you kind of extending that fight as well. But you would have liked to have that Transcendence here.
There's a Valk here for RQT in a couple moments. He's probably looking to charge it up in that 1v1 against Shawful earlier on because he knew he was going to go down, but get some damage. Get that
do a little bit of damage.
Yeah, okay, so here's the dive. Drew really needs to start this one off well. He switched off of that Roadhog to the Winston. Primer Rage immediately used. He's trying to really spread this around everyone and make it hard for Canada to find those targets that require them in any way, shape, or form. Self-destruct. Trill somehow avoids being taken down by that one, but Gunba does not. It's a res force from RQT to keep the Zenyatta up on their feet. They need that extra layer of healing, the Aussies, because they're taking so much damage even trying to get in position. Agilities, watch out! He won't quite get away. That snaking tendrils of the Tesla gun cut him down as he gets around the corner.
And Joe Meister falls with his Valkyrie, so you don't even get a chance there for Canada to use that power from Mercy ult. You could have brought 2 players back into the fight. You had some other players getting close towards ultimates. I mean, maybe you bring somebody like Agilities back into the fight with a Dragon Blade. No, you keep one of your tanks up a little bit longer. You're able to extend that if you're Canada, but you cannot die right there if you're Joe Meister. Gotta stay alive on that Mercy.
And this match is playing out some like how Route 66 might work. It's very, very important for this defending side to try and just make it expensive for Australia to gain progress, all right? They're using ultimates just to stall, and they're going to try and stop them in their tracks here. This is quite a late Transcendence from Gunba, but it's okay because ATAR was rezzed after he got picked off, so it's still a full-strength squad.
Well, now you see Joe Meister use his Valkyrie. Here's going to be a Dragon Blade coming in from Agilities. That's going to be 2. Hunts down 1 more. That'll be ATAR. Make it 4. Taking out RQT. He's had some, I mean, even contenders, some sick Dragon Blades. Some nice placed shots there on Nikiki. Clean him up as well. So Canada, they do have to use a decent amount of ultimates there to hold on to that, right? You had Joe Meister use his Valkyrie, had Agilities have to use his Dragon Blade. He had a self-destruct at the beginning, I believe, to open it up.
So think of this area like this, just after the first checkpoint on Route 66, right? If you can actually control here as a defensive team, it's hard for the attackers to get in. They have to use ultimates, not unlike this one. ATAR forced to dig in his pockets and invest in progress, and it's happened. It's worked out. Mangachu and XQC were both picked off by Keith self-destruct, and it's been all about the tanks in this fight so far. All the kills coming through, it's a complete wipe, and Australia now going to set themselves up for one more engagement just as they get around this corner. The hoping is just going to be one map, but Canada have been so hard for them to get off this payload in order to make progress at all.
Yeah, I mean, XQC is going to be close to a Primal Rage and Surefour with a Pulse Bomb coming into the next fight, but you're nowhere close for Canada for support ults, and that is scary because you're going to have RQT getting that Valkyrie on Mercy, be able to get the double res that comes through. It'll be Rolf taking out Goomba at the beginning of the fight. That's huge, because that's going to force RQT to use a res there. Bring the Zenyatta back into the fight early.
Trill lacking healing, he has to get back to his backline. Oh, Shawful tries to pursue, but Trill just gives him the 180 and a see you later, mate. Manages to catch him, and that, again, puts Joe Meister in harm's way. He has to go deep in enemy territory to try and get the res on Shawful. It works out, but he had to sacrifice himself in order to do so. Still seems to have done the job, though, for Canada. Australia now running a little bit low on numbers. Rolf is down, Trill now falls, Shawful's back in the fight. And Australia have to go for one more if they even have the time. There's 15 seconds left on the clock. A good push for Australia, but they haven't finished the map, and it's unlikely they will with Canada pushing forward.
Yeah, Canada's going to push forward. You have the Dragon Blade to use here from Agilities. He sees it, he's going to dive on in. The Transcendence comes out. Gumba has to go deeper, trying to contest on the cart. It's going to allow everybody else to just get cut down here by Agilities.
Oh, that timing is so perfect. Agilities just derails Australia's strategy in order to get back to the payload and finish this particular map out. They're just not even remotely close to the payload. Stunning work from Canada. They close the gap. They catch Australia mid-step while they're trying to go for one more fight, and the Australian squad doesn't even get the finish on their home map. Tantalizingly close to that third checkpoint, but close is no cigar.
You just get the feeling, watching this Canada roster play now, Agilities and Surefour starting to click, starting to heat up. I feel like if you're Australia, you get those 2 maps early, you needed to finish it off right away. Because if those 2 guys start to play well, it's going to be very dangerous for this Australian lineup.
Yeah, they're warming up. There's no doubt about it. Canada have looked stunning over the last couple of maps. But again, where's our benchmark for this particular map? It's the first time, of course, Junkertown, we're really getting to see a good amount of it here now at the World Cup. And that begs the question, at this level, in this particular meta, between these teams, is that a good performance? 87.41 meters on the attacking side. What does that look like in the grand scheme? That's why I'm interested to develop a story of how Junkertown plays over the course of this weekend and give us a sense of relativity to that particular distance. But now it's time for Australia to defend.
And I think Canada maybe would have been able to hold it even longer in that second phase of the map. Things fell apart where XQC on the Orisa was trying to put his shield up top and it went down low.
Really hurt
That's where things fell apart, because now Surefour can't do the damage on the McCree, right? He doesn't have a shield to get behind. Forces XQC to kind of sit in the corner. That allows Australia to move the payload up a little bit further. And as that happened, ATAR just gets behind enemy lines. Surefour is just kind of hiding in a corner. connects with a pulse bomb, takes him out. That's where things start to fall apart for Canada. If they play a little bit better, maybe that barrier lands up top, you keep Surefour alive, maybe you're able to do some stuff. If you're Canada, maybe hold them on that second point.
What is this composition? I mean, we're looking at Canada, they'll probably switch that one up, but for Australia, they have a defensive Widowmaker here. Each up is hoping that with this wide expanse of distance on this first point, he can maintain sight lines while keeping at arm's reach, or outside of arm's reach.
So here's the difference between two teams on defense, is that on the defensive end, Canada played up close because they did not want to let the potential Bastion strategy come out. Now, what a lot of teams are dubbing the pirate ship strategy, as they will just protect Surefour, El Presidente here on the payload, as Bastion is putting down a ton of damage, and this is why teams play close to the spawn door. It's very hard to get Surefour off of the payload once he gets set up.
You've got to respect this kind of approach here from Canada. Australia now are going to be forced into a complete and utter stagger. Look at the men up on this payload. There's 2 shields there, and Surefour is the president. Right behind, a lot of protection. He already has tank configuration available, so if push comes to shove in the fight, Surefour's just going to turn around and start unloading with those mortar shells.
Well, here's the thing. You have the double shields, right, with the Reinhardt, and you have, the Orisa barrier. If you try and dive deep, obviously you're worried about the damage that the Bastion can put down. You're also now worried about agilities on the Roadhog. Here's going to be tank mode coming out from Surefour. He's going to be able to take out 2. XQC swings through Trill, as it is Surefour putting on a show here on the Bastion, as it looks like it will be Canada taking point A.
It's just as easy as that. If you lose control of the map as a defensive team against this composition, you're going to be in big trouble. And Australia, it's clear to see they weren't expecting that. They brought a Widowmaker in. Against 2 shields and a Bastion,
you're not doing anything.
You are not going to get anything done. The pirate ship is well and truly on the march, and with XQC and Surefour at the helm, it may as well be the Black Pearl, Matt.
And then once you get, let's say you dive if you're Australia and you do some damage, there's so many large HP targets for Joemeister to build the res off of. And same with Rolf, trying to get a Transcendence. Here's going to be a dive. It'll be Joemeister that falls first here for Canada. It's a big first pick, as now you see Australia starting to make some ground.
Oh, that hole was huge. Oh, it's a beautiful setup for XQC to get the Earth Shatter, but the damage wasn't quite there. But look at all the kills he managed to get just with the use of that ultimate here. Australia were all together, a one big juicy package, and XQC out of for breakfast.
And it's a huge Earth Shatter because that allows Canada to win the fight, which will allow Surefour to get sent back up onto the payload. So we see from XQC's first-person POV.
That's about to get painful.
It's a big shatter there.
Lovely work, and that's a stunning combination. It's good to see Mangachu now up on that Orisa as well. So it's not just XQC playing that. The combo was so nasty with Holt being used. Atar gets hooked out of the mix, tries to get back towards the safety of the healing, but it's expired. There's not too much. He's trying to group up the rest of Australia up on that payload. Surefour gets taken down, but it seems as though the Aussies don't quite know how to deal with this.
It's very hard. We talked about it. Once you get set up, it's going to be both reses here used from Canada onto Surefour. So much HP now. It's going to be a barrier that goes down in front of Surefour. He's trying to locate Atar. Has no idea where he's at.
And Atar gets him too. Whack-a-mole with the ninja.
All right. Now I think you'll see Surefour switch, because it's very hard to get the Bastion set back up onto the payload. So you see Surefour, he will now go over to the Tracer. They have agility switch off of Roadhog. He'll go over to the Genji. XQC will change things off of Ryan. He'll go to Winston, so a little bit more of a standard comp now coming out from Canada.
I want to see what Surefour does here, because if he jumps to the payload, he can draw all of Australia back off the high ground, essentially, to try and respond to that. It's pretty easy to backcap with the payload being as close as it is. Surefour doesn't quite really know where to go here. There's obviously the bubble shield in his way from the enemy Winston. He's trying to find a way in towards the squishies to the back line, but he hasn't really found any egress towards them yet. And RQT drops down for a moment, but he's continually healing the rest of his team. Gumbo might be caught out. No, XQC gets taken down by Kiki. Great response. It's a 1-for-1, and RQT is off the map.
Yeah, Gunba's going to have to use the Transcendence here, and they're going to invest the Dragon Blade for Australia. So you use both of those ultimates. Now Canada can back out, come into this next fight, try and win it.
Yeah, and this is look at the tipping point right now. Look how close Canada are to those ultimate abilities, and look how many Australia have had to use previously. It's not really ideal with Gumba and Kiki so far away. Trio might have the primer range for some stall, but Canada, of course, with that Dragon Blade, its agilities, of course, that's where we're in the danger zone.
Well, you see the res being used by RQT to bring IHU up back into the fight. Just some trickle coming in here. So now it'll be Canada getting a full reset. They'll have a Dragon Blade. You're going to get very close to Transcendence. You're probably going to get that in this fight. Depending on how things go for Joemeister, if he can stay out of harm's way, you'll get a Valkyrie here as well. It's going to be Valkyrie, though, on the Australian side as well. We'll see how both teams play around it. It seems like Australia, at least, they've used that Valkyrie a little bit more offensively. But it's going to be Surefour landing a big pulse bomb on RQT. Not going to have the Valkyrie now. No Transcendence. You just saw it used in the last fight.
Yeah, and this is it. Canada, worthwhile to use his ultimates now to try and secure this point. It's been contested currently, though. Mangachu and Rolf trying to get this one across the line. Rolf might be caught out here. He's been pressured away. Oh, it's Trill back straight through, of course. The Flying Fists of Fury deal with that Zenyatta. And now combined with Etrop and Atar, this is big. This is huge. Australia have been able to weather the storm of these big ultimates coming up for Canada. Pulse Bomb, Dragon Blade, Transcendence. The Canadians haven't been able to get to that next checkpoint with them. And Australia are making this costly in time
now you've let, and you use the self-destruct there for Canada. So now you've let Australia get their own Dragon Blade, their own Valkyrie, their own Transcendence. You're gonna have a self-destruct of their own with only 1 minute and 15 seconds. This is not looking good for Canada. You're gonna have Joe Meister with the Valkyrie. Rolf dies at the beginning. Are you gonna be forced to use the res here on him? It'll be Mangachu taking Ichiup out, and it'll be Joe Meister using the res on Rolf.
I don't know if RQT can get the res on Ichiup as well. He died so far away from the rest of his team. This is dangerous. This is seriously dangerous. Joe's cut down, even though he was up in the air. It was going to be the blade that was able to clip his wings and send it back to the ground. Atar's getting healing, but is forced to back away from XQC, but he keeps the damage down. Here's the res from RQT. Valkyrie mode now, extra healing coming. Those beams are splitting off, but Surefour find the double with the pulse bomb. Atar and Trill fall. Kiki gets D-suited on Etrops, trying to stay alive on the payload. RQT is still here. He's still a factor. He actually found a kill on XQC with the blaster, but it won't be enough. Canada recover well. They spring back into action, and now they're on the home stretch to even this series up.
That double kill with the pulse bomb from Surefour was so clutch. Things are starting to fall apart. They use their Valkyrie. Joe Meister gets taken out in the sky, and then Canada, just Surefour swings things right in their favor. They did have to use a lot of ultimates to win it. Agility, so with the Dragon Blade. Goomba does have his Transcendence. It's the only support ult, obviously, for Australia on the table. It looks like Australia's going to get a little bit aggressive here, trying to push Canada back.
Yeah, this is nice. Look, you can see, despite Surefour having so much room to work, Australia were quicker on their dive. They were more effective. Agilities, there's nothing done with that Dragon Blade. That was a bit unfortunate for him. He's forced to put that one away for a couple of fights.
But they did get Australia to use their Transcendence. So now you know they don't have their Valkyrie, they don't have their Transcendence. You did burn your own Dragon Blade, but you're going to have a Transcendence and a self-destruct, getting very close to Primal Rage, a Valkyrie. You have a lot of ultimates to work with here if you're Canada.
XQC, who's his first target? Gumba's there, and Gumba just, there's no chance he was going to survive that one. He was being pressured by the Tracer as well. He does get resurrected pretty quickly. Mangachu drops, but is res. Gunba again down after being resed earlier on in the fight here. Not a good start for Australia at all, and Canada haven't had to use too many of those ultimates. The Transcendence definitely helped early on in the fight. It's Trill with the Primal Rage. He manages to find the Zenyatta yet again. It seems to be his primary target most of the time. XQC on the payload. He's holding this Primal Rage. This could be a game changer now as Canada get the fight win. They're approaching the end of the map. Not too far now.
Agility is going to get close to another Dragon Blade. You'll have Valkyrie as well here for Canada, but only 30 seconds left.
One fight to rule them all, Matt.
Atar with the Dragon Blade, RQT. If you're Canada, you need to dive RQT right away. You need to take him out of the fight.
This is Canada's hopes on the line in the World Cup. They must finish the map now, and they're running low on time. The Dragon Blade for Atar. Not much coming from that one quite yet, but Mangachu and Agilities fell down to the self-destruct. It's going to be a res here. Atar's got to get back into this fight, but he's being swatted away by XQC. Great use of this Primal Rage for saving it for later. And Atar is in the thick of it. He's in the mix, but he's not found any of these targets. Now we're into overtime. Canada are close, but they're not quite there. The green box of victory is just around the corner, and again, Australia are going to have to run and jump to get onto this payload and keep it going. Surefour stays up in front. This is quite scary for Trill. He could get bursted down very quickly, and he is. It's just one by one stuff from Australia. They're trying to keep this one going. The Transcendence comes a little bit late in the day. They found XQC, but he's going to be res straight away. Mangachu, the self-destruct. That might be what they need. They're forced to clear the payload, and RQT gets too close. He's taken down by the explosion. Canada is so close now. It's Atar desperately throwing himself in the payload, but you better believe that Canada are not done yet. It's a tied series. We're going to map 5.
And you just get the feeling, man, these DPS players for Canada have woken up. Surefour 54 limbs, Agility's 51 in this last map on Junkertown. So, really, towards the end, right, it started to get dangerous there for Canada. And they have to be pretty fortunate that they actually pulled out that Bastion strategy at the beginning, because they were able to take that first point pretty easily. It gave themselves a ton of time to work through the rest of the map.
Well, Canada are still going to be hanging around for a little while longer, it seems. And while they're still here, let's take a chance to get to know them a little bit better.
Canada will take first place
Canadian team is spread out, and we have 2 players from Alberta, 1 from British Columbia, 1's living in Quebec, and 1's from Ontario. It's kind of hard to play together as much because everyone's on a pro team, so everyone has different schedules.
You can't shut down all of us at once. It's impossible.
I think our most interesting player personality-wise is probably XQC. He's got a lot of energy in him and likes saying what he wants to say.
And Canada takes the lead.
I shock a lot. I try to lead the team. I try to call the dives, so I do a lot of talking. And everyone jumps in the comms, and it's very nice.
Mangachu gets him with the air-to-air.
Playing with Triple and Jalees is absolutely great because both these players are flexible. They can go aggressive and defensive, and they're both extremely good at what they do. Agility's Genji is absolutely insane, and we know that some fights, when we have Nano Sword, he's not going to make a mistake, so it's always a pleasure to play with him, and I love it.
Now they're up on the point. That's it! Canada have done it!
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
Canada really had to fight their way here to BlizzCon this year, managing to avoid South Korea in Poland. They still had to go up against Russia and the Netherlands, and what a stash it was. And now they're here to get themselves into the semi-finals, up against Australia. Matt, it's 2 apiece as we head to Nepal.
This series has been unbelievable. Australia with the first 2 map wins, then Canada, they just fight on back. They've won the last 2 to force this Game 5. Excited to see these 2 teams kick this Game 5 off in just a little bit. Gotta wait a little bit, wait for the players to get in the lobby. And I think for the first 2 maps, at least for me, ATAR was just phenomenal for Australia. It's really easy to just kind of make it as simple as like a 1v1 player-wise, but these last 2 maps for Canada, Surefour has really started to pop off.
Yeah, exactly, in a huge way. And we can talk about his role, especially over those first 2 maps. Surefour, that is. We saw him mix a little bit of that Tracer and that Soldier 76 in there. We saw a pop-up earlier on that said that a lot of objective kills had come from Surefour. Now, as a Soldier 76, this is often the case. You're not always sat on where the heat of the action is. The whole point about having a sprint ability is that you can get away from harm and do damage from range. But you can see he's been throwing himself into these fights, and the healing's been very, very good. You can see that quite often Rolf, and of course, Rolf especially has been stuck to him as well, especially with those Harmony Orbs to try and keep him in the fight. They're definitely emphasizing him quite heavily.
Yeah, they're trying to put a lot of pressure onto Surefour to try and push him back all the way. But while that's going on, I think XQC has played a very good, Winston getting very aggressive, because when they're trying to put so much pressure on Surefour in the backline, right? Because he's doing so much damage on whether it's the McCree or the 76, makes it a lot easier for Agilities and XQC to get deep into the opposing team's backline and cause a lot of problems.
I mean, we've seen a couple of things from Canada over the course of this series that make Nepal such an interesting affair. because the Orisa's definitely been a pick that we've seen from both Mangachu and XQC. She has some moments on this map, especially on Sanctum, where she can do a lot of work. Junkrat, someone we haven't seen in all this series, can thrive on this particular map, but again, he does get cut down by things like a Soldier 76 from range, so it's not going to be the simplest process.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the Junkrat for Canada is with how good like Agilities and Surefour played, you would probably have Mangachu run the Junkrat. Then I guess you would kind of force Surefour to play either Zarya, or you could go triple DPS if you wanted. And I think with the way he's been playing right now, you kind of let him do what he wants to do and then build around that. And I think on Mangachu, he's played a very good D.Va, but his Pharah was pretty effective on map number 1. I expect to see it here on map number 5.
Yeah, there's opportunities, of course. Nepal Village is a little bit hard for that Pharah to really interact with the point so much, because to be able to have line of sight to the players on the point on Village, you kind of have to put yourself in harm's way. You have to hover a little bit close to the ground. That's where you become susceptible to things like traces, and Genjis don't have to try and luck shurikens onto you from long range.
It also puts your Mercy at risk as well, with how prevalent Mercy is now and how important it is to keep her alive. When you run Pharah on a map like Village and it forces the Pharah down low, and Mercy kind of in turn comes down. It may not even emphasize, killing the Pharah at that point. Just go for the Mercy if she's right, for the pickings. But we'll see. Game 5 could be the reverse sweep here for Canada. Would make you extremely sad as an Australian citizen living in America.
That's right. But you know what? What I love more than Australia? Good Overwatch. That's what we're here to see. BlizzCon Arena, make some noise. It's game number 5 in this series. Canada versus Australia. Only one can advance to the semi-finals. We will start on Village. We will start with a Pharah here for Mangachu.
It's interesting. You won't see the Zenyatta coming out from Rolf. Rolf will actually be playing the Mercy, and you're going to get the Lucio. And oh man, you want the Lucio at the beginning. You can get your teammates into a little bit better position. Try and put some damage down towards the door as some kills go down there at the beginning for both sides. XQC will fall here for Canada as Mangachu still up in the sky, putting a lot of damage down here onto Kiki. It'll force him to get demacked as see if Canada can take this at the beginning.
Yeah, looks like so far so good. They're on the point here. You can see Kiki actually, obviously in pilot D.Va form, is trying to pressure down. There's enough bodies for Australia now to stop this capture progress from Canada. How much impact is Mangachu having so far, though? He just waltzes onto the point. He finds 2 quick kills. He drop and Kiki going down. And for Australia, this is a nightmare. This is where Mangachu starts to really fire up. They don't have a great response to him. They haven't had a good response to him on that first map, and he's free to do whatever he wants.
They did nothing about it on Oasis. It'll be Australia actually taking the point here. Some kills still going down. They have not looked at Mangachu on the Pharah at all. They have just kind of played on the ground. There's a rocket barrage. It'll take out one. Surefour takes Trill out. Kiki, he'll get demeched. XQC on the point here for Canada, as Canada should be able to flip this point right back in their favor. Australia needs to do something to deal with the Pharah play of Mangachu.
No doubt about it. Aerial superiority is exactly what Canada is exercising right now. And Mangachu, such an early barrage coming away from him. He can spend such little time in that vulnerable zone close to the point and still get so much damage done. That's just efficiency in terms of those rockets connecting when they need to. Australia has a couple of ultimates to work with, but still no indication they're even thinking of going for a 76 or something else to deal with that. So there needs to be a response, a change here. They're still ahead in percentage, but that might change soon.
Yeah, it'll be a Primal Rage that comes out from XQC, just trying to knock players back. It'll be the Sound Barrier now that comes out here as well. It's going to be Atar using his Dragon Blade. A nice boot there from Joe Meister, keeps him alive.
Now, nothing Atar can do there as well as just swing his sword around in vain. It may as well have been made out of rubber. Now, though, up on the point, Australia can have more players on the point at any one time because the Pharah and the Mercy of Canada generally have to stay away from this one. So if you can get boots on the ground and fight on the objective itself, Australia have an inherent numbers advantage, and they're exercising that now as much as possible.
Oh, and they're going to invest the Transcendence here, Australia, because Agilities pops his Dragon Blade, gets taken out by Trill before he can get anything for it. This is a fight that Australia feels they can win, and they do. They flip the point back in their favor.
So when you're playing with this Pharah Mercy, the rest of the Canada roster, if they're going to contest the point, they need to stay alive for as long as possible in order to allow Mangachu to get the damage done. If that does not happen, Mangachu can do as much damage as he likes. It's going to be healed up. It's not going to be capitalized on by the rest of his teammates because they're just not going to be alive. Very, very important that they play with Mangachu in mind and stay as passive as possible without giving up free kills.
Yeah, just to give you perspective on how effective Mangachu has been, he's done 30% of the team's damage to other heroes here at the beginning of this game. It's a large chunk of damage being put down by Mangachu. He's going to earn himself another rocket barrage. He's going to use it here onto the point. He's able to connect with Goomba. It's going to be Surefour taking out Trill. It's going to force RQT to use the res, bring the Zenyatta back into the fight, but things falling apart for Australia. A little bit of bags action there coming in from Mangachu.
Don't worry.
Yeah, he's got to feel a little bit disrespected. They have not even tried to deal with him in the sky. They think he's a non-factor, but he's just showing off
through him. Just showing off his matching
just stunting a little bit.
No worries. So, Australia's still in the lead so far, but look, I love this triple DPS setup from Canada because it means they can actually have 4 players on that point and still have almost an equal amount of damage available in that vicinity going up against Australia. Yes, they don't have as much survivability and healing, but it's all about that burst damage coming down. Mangachu, this guy is going nuts, just pops over the top. Not doesn't really want a cup of tea, just a kill on Gunba. He gets res, but he's almost dropped yet again. There's so much pressure coming forward, and Australia have not opted for any hit scan pressure to deal with the bird. I can't believe it. Mangachu now gets himself the sound barrier, and the rest of his team in Australia have to come forward.
Australia uses a Dragon Blade. They use their own Valkyrie, and XQC is going to knock them on back. The Goomba, he's going to use his Transcendence here as well. That's going to be Rolf using his Valkyrie here for Canada. They'll bring Agilities back into the fight. Mangachu getting very close to another Rocket Barrage here.
Yeah, it's going to hurt. He puts himself on the point, but he gets a little bit too close for comfort. Kiki picks him off with the Bunny Blaster, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, then gets himself resuited. Australia had to take the point now. Mangachu gets raised in an awkward and rather compromising position, but still manages to get away before blowing himself up. However, Joe Meister and Shawfora here do most of the damage, and that bubble put down by Trill is very important. Australia need to use that as much as they possibly can right now, and they don't really get much out of it. Not enough protection for them there. Overtime now is going to tick down, and Kiki's going to be desuited. Canada, the Pharaoh of Mangachu, has propelled them forward, as it always seems to do. And they're going to take the first round in this final map.
And Village is the one point where we thought the Pharaoh would not be as effective, right? We did see it used there by Mangachu to great effect. Canada 1 point away from the reverse sweep of Australia. Australia needs to answer back. I think in this next point, potentially you could see Mangachu run something like the Junkrat. It makes it difficult, right? Because if he pulls out the Junkrat, you have like a hit scan here, like a McCree or a 76, like it can force him kind of into a back area where he can't really get a ton of damage. I think now it just has Australia guessing, like what are they going to pull out here on this next point?
Right, obviously this is also another map where Farah has a ceiling to contend with. So it can prevent her from getting as high up in the sky as she'd otherwise like to. So I don't mind seeing a switch here for Canada if it's going to be, the Junkrat for Mangachu. You're susceptible to Soldier 76 in some regards. It's some, longer range hit scan, but guess who doesn't have any of that? Australia. Gunba! That's not really hit scan, that's projectile damage, but still, he's able to find Mangachu, force him out of position, try and give Australia a positional advantage, as both of these teams are toting those Junkrats.
I mean, XQC, he's going to be running the Orisa here, and you're going to have Agilities on the Roadhog as the 2 tanks, and I was going to say, with both of those tank heroes, you're going to be able to start pulling people off of the map, and then you're already denying so much area with the Junkrat. Now you're scared to kind of go towards these edges, because either of these tanks, you see the way XQC and Agility is just pulling these players off of the map. Surefour finishes off Trill, also takes out IEQ up. It's just a lot of area denial here coming in from Canada.
And look, Orisa can stay alive for so long right now as well. Being able to fortify yourself and prevent damage from coming through as effectively, and also being healed is quite a lot of effective HP available to you. I like the combo of Orisa and Junkrat. Of course, there's always the threat of a Hulk being used to pull you off the side. So that also means Australia can't linger on an edge and try and poke back and forth. We see a Soldier 76 here for IE2 up. It's going to have to make the difference now. We normally see ATAR piloting that one, but they need the Junkrat.
Canada already has both support ults. It's going to be a Transcendence that leads the way here for Australia. It's going to be Surefour getting his tack visor. When does he decide to use it? That's going to be a Riptire. 2 kills comes out there for Mangachu. It's going to be Whole Hog coming through as well for Canada. You don't have to use the tack visor here if you're Surefour. As you see, he gets IEQ up very weak. He's going to put down his biotic field. Now everybody's starting to put pressure on him. He will fall as well as Canada is starting to get rolling.
And listen, this is stunning stuff from Mangachu as well. You're getting 2 kills with this Riptire. Your Mercy can only decide to heal one of them. It goes for ATAR, but it wasn't enough to keep them alive in that fight. And Canada, they've got such a nice lead, and these ultimates haven't really been forced out of them. They've got a tactical visor. They've got a Valkyrie in this next fight. This is going to be pretty nasty to deal with.
ATAR is going to try and open things up here with the Riptire. He's trying to go off with a high wall run. Agility spots it, puts some damage into it. Can he get anything? It'll be XQC staying alive on the point. Now the dive comes in, be able to take him out. That's going to force the Valkyrie out of Joe Meister. He brings XQC back into the fight. The self-destruct takes him out, brings him right back in. As now the tack visor comes in from Surefour. He's going to be able to get 2, searching for more, picks up a 3rd.
Now Supercharger gets taken down early in the fight, but Australia put so much priority in dealing with the bongos that Surefour was still up on the high ground doing damage. All those ultimates now, they're just cycling through them one by one, and there's another Riptire available. Australia only have about 20% to get themselves towards the point. It's not looking good.
And Australia has no ultimates. You're going to have another Riptire here for Mangachu, and you're going to have your Transcendence on Rolf. Here comes the Riptire. could be GG if he's able to get something with it, even if he's able to just stall this out.
One kill's all he really needs, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have that. Magnitude comes in, Gunba is down, 4% remaining. It's a hasty resurrect to try and keep him on his feet. They're now contesting the point, but they're split. The use of that hold over there was stunning. It's kept half of Australia from contesting this point whatsoever. Overtime it is, but where are Australia? ATAR desperately, it's a valiant attempt to keep this game alive, but it's not going to be enough. Australia, your Crocodile Dundee!
It's a hell of a comeback there from Team Canada. And towards the end, you saw their DPS players really start to shine. Surefour and Agilities. Mangachu on the control maps played such a crucial part on the Pharah, and then XQC with the Orisa play there at the end. It's phenomenal.
This is why Canada are here. This is why they're one of the best teams as an all-star roster in the World Cup, because it's a new patch. It's a new meta for so many people. But these guys pulled their socks up and adjusted mid-series to bring the reverse sweep. That's true grit, the hallmark of a champion.
And I think, the last 3 maps, you were really kind of looking at, Surefour and Agilities. Where were they the first 2 maps? Surefour shows up in the final 3, really puts together a strong performance.
And that's going to be it in Australia. They've come so far, but their story ends here. Canada will advance. We're going to head to a break, and when we return, we'll have the desk break down some of the minutiae of that particular match.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
And the Canadians look to bring out the broomsticks there. The reverse sweep came out, and the Australians will be taking their way back down under. Unfortunately for them, the Aussies fought hard. What a series that was. The nail-biter went all the way to the end. Jamerson, that was a great game.
That was absolutely a great game, and we got to see that, Canada just need a little time to wake up there. Our DPS duo of Agilities and Surefour, they had a rough start. Agility starting off on, I believe it was the Roadhog early on in the match. And then when he got back onto the Genji, he looked just as comfortable picking up that Genji. We saw the blades coming out, him getting the dash resets over and over again.
It was very clear that the story of this game was Agilities and Surefour having to just heat up little by little. And while Mangachu was the star of Game 5 with his incredible plays on Pharah and Junkrat, still though, Surefour was amazing. But I want to get your thoughts on Agilities real quick, Hexagrams, because you saw that Roadhog come out. It wasn't really all that inspiring. And then it was like a light switch turned on, and Agilities had arrived.
Well, when he busted out a blade late and then he got nothing with it and died, I'm like, well, that's the price you pay for the Agilities that will also get you 4 eliminations, 5 eliminations, 6 eliminations on a Genji. So Genji's also just struggling a little bit in the meta right now. It's a little bit more difficult for him to play, but Agilities is so good on it that he can still make it work. And when you have a game-changing player like that who gets 4 kills and just wins a fight by himself, sometimes you accept the fact that, yeah, that blade didn't work out, but if it would have, it's what we're used to.
Very true. But then his cohort on the other side, Surefour, this guy, he took him to school sometimes here, James. And why don't you break it down for us, because there's one highlight I'm personally excited about regarding Surefour and high ground usage.
Well, this is just back to basics on how you need to approach second point Hanamura. So at this point, Surefour is going to be on Soldier 76, and he's got that high ground. And that high ground position is so valuable, especially if you're trying to cap out the point, and you've already got most of the kills just to finish it out. So if we go into this replay, we'll see that we do have Surefour. You know, he's on the high ground. I believe he starts it off with a Helix rocket kill onto Lucio, and getting rid of the Lucio is so huge.
Yeah, that's the thing that you always have to take in mind when you play Soldier 76 on Hanamura. And you know, I think we're going to be queuing up the replay here in just a little bit, so we'll jump into it for that highlight. But you have to talk about just taking things back to basics, hexagrams, and just playing it out so simply. He goes on for the high ground. He finds his targets, whittles down that HP, and then from there at that point, like you have to go past not only his team, but then you have to get to Surefour, and his aim was just so true at that point.
It's about, especially Hanamura last, making the defense make tough decisions. Do we just let this soldier alone on the high ground? My answer, of course, is no. Never leave a soldier alone on the high ground. That's asking to lose. But then what do we send after him? Can we get away with just sending a Diva up there? Can we get away with just sending a Winston? Again, against a character like Surefour or a player of his caliber, the answer is no. So you have to commit multiple people up there to get up top, and then you're in a bad position on the ground. So it just forces the defense into a terrible spot.
So we've been talking about it. Now let's show it, James. Break it down.
He's just on the high ground. They have everything they need to use on the side of Canada just to close this on out. Surefour coming in. That's the high ground position. You see the kind of attention he draws.
Yeah, and eventually you see over the top, I eat you up. He wants to be on the ground, finishing up the kills of all the people who are damaged and getting everyone off the point. But they force him to go up top to just put pressure onto Surefour. And that's a fight that he's not going to win without Pulse Bomb. He does get some work done, but now your Tracer's out of position because of that threat that he presents on the high ground.
Speaking of Tracers and Pulse Bombs and craziness, we might as well move on to the next one. It was a treat to see Junkertown yet again, or for the first time, excuse me, here on the world stage. And Surefour, he made his time pretty valuable there in Australia. Let's talk about that particular replay here, James, because that was a game-changing moment for Surefour.
Yeah, well, in Hanamura, that's where they really needed to gain back the momentum, and they continued to carry that into Junkertown. They were stalled out a little bit as we do go into this next replay. It's going to be at the second point where they were getting stalled and it looked like they might have gotten held here, but Surefour comes in with a great pulse bomb, taking out both Atar and Trill, and this is the versatility we're talking about in Surefour.
Well, he takes out Trill, Atar dashes into it, but it's, you know, 10% luck, 20% skill, but this is where Surefour was just power of will right there. Yeah. This is what I knew.
Okay, Fort Minor, let's calm down.
Come on, I knew someone would get it. This is where I knew that Surefour was taking over, because post that clip, even after the pulse bomb, he cleans up 2 more. So it's 4 eliminations for Surefour. He would not let his team lose this set.
I wonder how many people got that reference.
I don't know.
I wonder how many people got the Fort Minor thing too.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We always experiment with that here. You know, we like to test the viewer's intelligence and see how far down the rabbit hole you can go with kind of pointless references.
that's my whole shtick.
Yeah, but what isn't pointless is T-Mobile. That's right. Our friends over at T-Mobile want you to determine who will be the most valuable player for the 2017 Overwatch World Cup. And it's super easy for you to do so. If you're on Twitch right now, and I saw a lot of people spamming XQC, apparently, you go out there, you use the exclamation mark, T-Mobile MVP, and then you include the battle tag. If you're on Twitter, it's easy there as well. Hashtag T-Mobile MVP and the battle tag. And we have jumped into the debate as to who should be the T-Mobile MVP here on the desk. Let's go ahead and check the progress so far. XQC with, come on, really?
Welcome to the jungle.
With 40. I hate you, James. with 44%? This is ridiculous.
No, he had some standout plays on that
game.
Winston,
He
though.
did.
Okay, so we talked about it at the start of the matchup, right? That XQC, Hex, you had mentioned it, that he has to play a different style if he's not going to have that diva to protect him. And so we did see him be a bit more reserved, especially when Mangachu was on that Pharah. But once he had that diva back in play, we could see the kind of influence he could have with that Winston, picking up double, triple kills.
He also understands his ult is going to be different and the utility of that ult. The cap on the King's Road to just knock them away, knowing, look, this ult isn't the same as it used to be, but I'll just take the point with my ultimate now. He's playing in a different style, and that's why I think he actually has been very valuable to his team. I don't know about 44% over 7 valuable, but he's a valuable asset.
Do you think it's justified? You think it's a justified T-Mobile MVP?
I think so, because he's just been the foundation for the Team Canada on that Winston.
Right.
He hasn't been like feeding over kills, you know. He's been staying alive for the most part and being able to play both that very, safe style Winston and that aggressive style Winston, and like be able to turn that switch and switch between the two. It's vastly important.
You know, I'll allow it. Because I have no choice. This is the world we live in. But you guys can get involved there. And once again, thank you so much to T-Mobile for supporting the 2017 Overwatch World Cup.